Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board meeting of April 1st, 2025. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have three of our Mohegan Fire Commissioners here. If you guys could lead us off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could remain standing for a moment of silence, and I'd like you all to keep in your hearts Anthony Fama, who passed away last week. Anthony was a veteran. His wife Maria, very involved with our seniors, both here and with the church. And then we will also say a prayer for all of our first responders and military out there defending our freedoms. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
All right, we'll start with introductions. To my right.
Good evening, Diana Quast, Town Clerk.
Good evening, Luciana Howitt, Councilwoman.
Supervisor Ed Lachterman.
Sergio Esposito, Deputy Supervisor.
Good evening, Patrick Murphy, Councilman.
Good evening, Susan Siegel, Councilwoman.
Good evening, Adam Rodriguez, Town Attorney.
Do you want to introduce?
I was going to wait for you and then
Oh, thank you.
you can do it.
I forgot her name already. Alzheimer's is the son of a gun, but you're always meeting new people. On a positive
it's
note.
exciting, though.
Dave Paganelli, Highway Superintendent.
That was a bad joke. So the highway superintendent's right is Katie Krahulik, an associate from our firm who just joined us. She's going to be observing and meeting all you wonderful people this evening.
Very good. So for reports for the town, first I want to thank the gentleman sitting to my left, Sergio Esposito. On Saturday, I was down county and received a call about some down wires over 202. We were having some trouble getting the utilities were here. We were having trouble getting the cable companies here, the communication companies. Sergio was on top of it, keeping me posted. What took a really long time was actually short compared to what they were telling us to begin with. I think finally, what time did they get there? About 7:30, 8 o'clock?
They got there about 6:30. Say about 7 o'clock, something like that.
And Sergio was able to keep on that, and I thank you for making my day a little easier and dealing with all of that. We had a lot of stuff going on. I'll talk about one of the openings I went to. I'll give Sergio the other. Fit Pilates and Wellness, right across from Elizabeth Ann Seton Church. Wonderful place. Really, really nice job they did there, and we wish them a lot of success. Friday, I got to spend the morning over at the library for Tommy's retirement. Tom worked 30 years with the library, with the town. I think the last 13 with the library. And it was a wonderful, wonderful send-off. Tom Galello, good luck. I know we'll see you. I didn't know if we'd see him tonight. I have his proclamation, so we'll get him in next week, hopefully. I also, after that, went over, and there was a very important press conference, and I want to mention it because a law is being introduced. Matt Slater is bringing it in, and it has a lot of bipartisan support. Basically, it was for victims of domestic violence. If they live in any type of housing situation where it's like a lottery system, New York State right now allows them to break their lease with no penalty, but it makes them go to the bottom of the lottery or have to reapply again. And what happens with this is people are forced to stay in a place that could be very traumatic and could have been the scene of something very traumatic as well, as was in the case with this family that he, was there with him. So if you see that coming along, make sure you voice your support to Matt, to Pete Harcum, to Dana Levenberg, and anyone you may know in Albany to try to get that passed, because I think this is a very important aspect. We had our Vietnam Veterans Day celebration on Saturday, but Wednesday the Veterans of Foreign War VFW post had a send-off for them. A busload of Vietnam veterans went up to Albany, where they were treated to lunch by Senator Harcum. They went to the chambers. There was a proclamation read, and they were recognized in the way they have to. Do we have any Vietnam veterans in the room today? No. Well, for those listening, thank you for your service and welcome home. The Vietnam veterans did not get the welcome they deserved, and please, anyone in this room, extend it. Anytime you see one of those veteran hats, thank them. If it's a Vietnam veteran, welcome them home. On Sunday, there were a few things. I think Dave is going to want to speak about one of them, so I'll skip that. But Elizabeth Ann Seton Church has a new pastor, Father Joe. Wonderful guy, born and raised in Yorktown. Went to school with one of our board members, which is nice. But he had it's the fullest I've seen a church in a long time, and it was a very nice ceremony. Welcome to the area, Father Joe. And later on that day, I was down at the inauguration of our new county executive, Ken Jenkins. Very nice event as well. We've been working with Ken on a few projects, and wish him nothing but success. And I was glad we could spend the day there. And then just a blessed Eid to all of those who are celebrating. Thank you. We'll start to the left today, Susan. Oh, and you could mention that, Susan. We spoke about it because I forgot to.
Oh, okay. Hi, good evening. Just a few things. One, I know there's concern about battery storage, and as you'll see on the agenda, there's a public hearing scheduled on a pending law on May 6th. Just today, I got an email from NYSERDA. There's going to be a webinar from the New York State Interagency Fire Safety Work Group on this whole BESS issue. Unfortunately, that comes the day after we have to hold our public hearing. It's May 7th from 3 to 5 p.m., and you can sign up to register. If you go to the NYSERDA website, NYSERDA is NYSERDA.com, and you should have the information there to register. Again, that seminar is May 7th from 3 to 5, and this should be the latest information about the lithium battery issue. Okay. I do want to correct a statement that was made at a previous meeting when there was some discussion about the 485B tax incentive and tax certs. It was stated at the time that a property owner had to make a choice. Either they could go for a tax cert or for a 485B incentive, and that's not true. You can have both. Even if you've had you've had your taxes reduced as a result of a tax cert, you can still qualify for 485B. One has nothing to do with the other. I'm still waiting for to get a work session discussion on two important Halleck's Mill sewer issues that I hope that we can have them on April 8th at the next work session. We have one outstanding issue, the Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension District, where we have the
Susan, Dan will be talking a little bit about that today.
About that, and also the pump stations for Halleck's Mill.
We'll
He's going to be talking about that
as well
because,
today,
as
so.
you know, I'm kind of big on sewer issues. On the solar law, just an update, the town board is still working on some draft legislation. That's the progress. We're still working on it, and I think that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Patrick.
Alrighty. So I'll make it quick. The library is bringing back Family Game Day again, and they're going to have movies. Trivia's back, and they're going to have trivia on April 11th. It's going to be the Gilmore Girls. And May 9th is Star Wars, and you have the June 13th, it's Park and Rec. It's the sitcom. It's not our department gym. So, but bring your friends, bring your family to, Family Day. It's April 12th from 2 to 4. Yvonne, I see her in the audience. You guys do a phenomenal job. Just keep up the good work. And there's so much stuff to do. And you can go to their website, which is yorktownlibrary.org. and you could sign up for a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of stuff for the little kids to go with. And while Yvonne's doing a great job, what they're doing is they're trying to incorporate, as you bring your kids there, if you have tweens that are driving them, there's stuff for them. If there's adults, they're trying to make it a one-stop shop. So keep up the good work, Yvonne.
Just to add on to that, today is also April 1st, so that means it's Library Giving Day. So for those of you that don't know that, it's a one-day fundraiser event with the goal of encouraging people who depend on and enjoy public libraries to donate to their individual library system, and turn that support will go towards the incredible programs, services, and materials provided by local libraries all over the country. Anyone interested in donating to the John C. Hart Memorial Library can go to the library's website, as Patrick said, yorktownlibrary.org, and click on the support tab. The Friends of the Library will appreciate any support. And actually, there's because I'm on it right now donating, there's a little click for the actual day, and you could click right on that and donate through there as well. So, thank you.
Great.
Sergio?
Yeah. So, several things. I know that we had a great grand opening. The Yorktown Grill, which went out of business, is now filled. It's Don Pablo's. It's a Mexican restaurant. They got great food. We had a great time opening them up the other night. They had a mariachi band, and it was really you were immersed in the Mexican culture. Which is what I like the best.
It was great.
And the food was absolutely fantastic as well. So please check it out. They could use everybody's help, and it's a great addition to Yorktown. It's actually a perfect fit.
I tried to go there Saturday night. It was a 45-minute wait.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sounds good to me.
Good.
That's perfect. And I wish them the best. It's a family-run restaurant. The dad's the cook. The mom makes the margaritas. The daughter and the son are the owners, and they're 24 and 25-year-olds. So young entrepreneurs coming into Yorktown. And we welcome them with open arms. We also had a rebranding of a pizzeria, El Macho. It's right next to the
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts. Thank you. So they're open for business. We also had a great Maple weekend. I hope everybody had the opportunity to participate in the many cultural events that Maple New York Maple Weekend brings down to us. And we also had another young entrepreneur open up Rita's Ice. There's a new owner there, and he's 18. So a lot of good stuff going on. Spring sports are in the air. Today I was at the Lakeland High School versus Yorktown High School baseball. A great rivalry. It was a great game today. And it was great to be out on the baseball field and watching the kids play and stuff like that. We have the Shrub Oak Athletic Club baseball, softball opening day parade coming up. I think it's this weekend. Saturday. We also have the Parks and Rec Easter egg hunt coming up Saturday. We have a grand opening next week for another grand opening here, Exclusive Cuts, another building filled. And like I said, lacrosse and baseball are back. Going into, since it's appropriate, I put an article up about the John C. Hart Memorial Library, and Yvonne helped me with the facts and everything like that. You know, they've had a century of service here in Yorktown, and the history behind it is quite compelling. But I'll read you the last paragraph of my article that I put in the paper. It said, with something for everyone, the John C. Hart Memorial Library continues to serve as a dynamic, inclusive space where learning and community connection thrive through its wide-ranging programs, modern facilities, and dedicated leadership, Yvonne. The library exemplifies the evolving role of public libraries in today's world, and we see how important and how prevalent it is in our conversation this evening. Thank you.
It is quite beautiful, that library. So just to reiterate again, the Yorktown Lions and Yorktown Parks and Rec will be having their Saturday, April 5th, 12 and under for them. And then there's also a decorating egg contest, which will be due on April 14th. As you all know, I'm not shy to shout out my Parks and Rec commission there that was working on seeing what these lovely parks were doing, while our rec commission under the superintendent here is saying that's great, but what we really need is to hire camp counselors. And what we need is water specialists and lifeguards, because summer is actually coming. And without those, I can't have children get off the waiting list. So right now, we're looking for day camp staffs all the way up to lifeguards. We even need gate attendants. Go ahead and contact Yorktown Parks and Rec office. And you can go ahead also on our website. There's where it says summer employment. It's all seasonal. So if you have a teen or just a mom that wants to get out for a couple hours and help out, this is probably a good place to start. The more camp counselors we get, the more code we can work, and then the more the list will go down to crunching, and we'll give our kids an opportunity to have a camp day. And that's it.
Me?
David, yep.
So what Supervisor Lachterman was referring to was the maple syrup weekends, 2 weekends at the Grange. And I had the pleasure of cooking for 12 seatings. I was the scrambled egg guy. Serge, how about the scrambled eggs?
The scrambled eggs are delicious.
Very good, good, right?
The best I've ever had, Dave.
Thank you. And they did a fabulous job. We were up almost 45% over last year in terms of the number of guests that came. Excellent. So that was wonderful. You're going to be noticing, on a sour note or positive note, our culvert on Old Crampon Road behind McDonald's. We were out there today. We closed that road because we took down about 15 trees. We are now preparing for that culvert to be taken care of this summer. So there will be intermittent closures depending on what needs to get done to achieve, kind of may need to close. They already set another pole. And we should have biddable plans by the end of this week. And I think we'll be in good shape to get that done when the trout season is not, the trout are not spawning, which is between June and September. So we have a very short window of opportunity to get that done. And other than the highway, other than that, highway's pretty much status quo. Potholes, a lot of potholes after the winter.
Yep.
And my intent is to pave Whitehill because it is on the paving list, and pave it prior to the closure because that's the closure. In other words, everyone goes up and down Whitehill off of Hunter Brook and off of Mohansick Avenue. So I'd like to have that road done prior to that closure. And that's it. Thank you.
Was there another event on Sunday that you may not have gotten to because you were cooking?
Oh,
Support Connection?
I didn't make it to the Support Connection brunch.
All right.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, support, Diana, did you have?
We can still talk about it, absolutely.
Diana will talk about it.
Yes,
I
Diana, why don't you
I
speak
did
to it?
attend the Support Connection brunch. It was
Yeah, it was when you abandoned the kitchen at the Grange. That's right.
I
remember.
also did the Grange on Saturday and Sunday, but it was a great event. The violinist was excellent, and it was totally packed. So thank you for everyone that donated and for attending.
Very good. And how many years for Support Connection?
I want to say it's 30.
Yeah, I thought it was a big, yeah. Oh, congratulations, Kathy and team. You guys do great work in our community. All right. So, let me go through my papers here, sorry. I have a proclamation, and at this time, Brian and Tom, do you want to approach the podium? All right, so it is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month here in Yorktown and all over the country. So whereas the town of Yorktown is guided by the principles of inclusivity in its commitment to help improve the lives of all individuals in the diverse community we serve, and whereas autism impacts people regardless of race, ethnicity, and social economic backgrounds, and whereas while conditions characterized with autism may challenge communication, social skills, and behavior, and individuals within the autism spectrum disorder, ASD community, present varying qualities, strengths, and challenges. And whereas in the month of April, we strive to promote autism awareness, inclusion, and acceptance, and the town of Yorktown is committed to providing equitable access services, events, and activities that support self-determination for all autistic individuals. And whereas the town of Yorktown recognizes the importance of creating spaces that beyond acceptance provide opportunities for representation and celebration of all autism groups, and whereas the town of Yorktown seeks to create a socially conscious community that values and celebrates unique individuals within the ASD community, which celebrates all kinds of minds, and now, therefore, be it resolved that the Yorktown Town Board hereby proclaims the month of April to be designated as Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month and encourages the community to join in advocacy efforts. Now, while we talk about that, before I speak about Brian real quick, I want to give a special shout out to our town clerk. We've been working a lot in the library as a town, the museum, I'm sorry. I keep doing that, just because there's so much great stuff in both of them. But we've been working in the museum quite a bit in the town to get things up and running with the hiring of Amy Swan as our curator. But one of the great things that Diana has advocated for is the hiring of autistic individuals, people with disabilities, and working with them in different jobs within the library. Museum. Wow. Maybe
Two for two.
Yeah. Okay. So in the museum, how many people with disabilities?
We started right now. His name is Liam, and he's doing a fantastic job. He's doing great for us.
Right.
So
And
we'll be working towards having more, but right now in the beginning we've started with one.
very good. And Amy has been working with that, and also Anna from your office, which has been fantastic. And Anna has worked with individuals with disabilities, having a daughter with disabilities as well. So we encourage you to keep moving with that. Anything we could do, as you know, we will continue to do. And then, Brian, I'd like to give you our proclamation this year. I said it last time you were up here, but you know, every time I see you, Brian, and know the type of person you are, and know about you, you are a person that I want to emulate in life. You are a true example of a great human being. So I have this proclamation for you today, buddy.
Good job, Brian.
You're very welcome, Brian.
Take a picture.
Hey, let me get a picture.
No,
Let me get a
thank you, Ed.
picture.
We appreciate your support. We appreciate what the town does. We look forward to having more opportunities to employ folks like Brian and his friends and people in the community. Anything I could do, or Brian could do to help do that, we're here to do it.
I just
Wonderful, Brian.
one last thing. Happy 21st birthday, Brian.
Thanks.
Happy birthday.
My man's
We're
legal.
gonna go have a Guinness.
He's legal. Guinness for everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Brian, congratulations, Brian.
Thanks.
21.
All right.
This left.
So we have something from our poet laureate.
Yes, we do. So I saw John again. He's doing well. He's still not quite walking, but he's recuperating quite well. His poem, A Little Less Sarcasm, Please. After a recent poetry reading, a friend sent me a note suggesting that I might end my poems with less sarcasm and more uplifting thoughts. Something to consider and try out as soon as I get the sun to stop rising in the east and waking me with sunlight in the mornings. In the meantime, uplifting thoughts may be found every Sunday morning at the Church of the Good Shepherd.
Oh,
Very good. All right.
John McMullen.
So before we jump into the presentations, I do want to skip ahead a little bit because we do have someone here that's being appointed today. Will you give me this this little breach here?
Yeah. For,
So Kathleen Macy, can you step up to the podium? So we've had some shortages in our senior advisory committee, senior citizen advisory committee, and Kathleen had come in and asked about serving. We did have someone else send a letter in, but unfortunately did not respond to phone calls. But we've had some people out, and Kathleen, tell us a little bit about your experience working with seniors and people with disabilities, real quick.
Well, my husband was disabled for 25 years.
Kathleen,
And-
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You face
Yes.
it, yeah. Thank you.
My husband was disabled for 25 years of our marriage, of 45 years. And he was quite a trooper, and he never lost his ambition to make things better. He was an engineer, and he worked on sprinkler systems for buildings and public buildings and private buildings. So in his effort to make the world a better place, and his adventures out on the highway in his motorized chair, he found places where he could not get in. He couldn't get into the building or through the doorway, and that gave him the incentive to work on getting accessible living in Yorktown, in all our public places and private places too. So, of course, I worked with him on that because every time we went out, it was an adventure. And we succeeded in a lot of different places, starting with Susan Siegel back when they were putting the intersection in at the Chase Bank and BJ's. And a traffic light was required there because there was an accident every week. And he didn't want to be one of those accidents. And Susan invited him to a meeting where the state of New York came and talked about accessibility. And now that particular intersection has stop lights, you know, where you can stop and get across in time before the light changes. There were many situations like that. And I just felt that I had to be his voice at times because he was disabled. But he was the strong and lion heart of our family. And I'd like to continue with his dedication and with my lion heart, too, to be a member of the Senior Advisory Board Committee. Thank you.
Well, we thank you for your interest in spreading yourself, because I know you're also with the Lions. I think you're with the St. Pat Seniors as well now.
And the Elks.
And the Elks. So Kathleen wears a lot of different hats, and I've seen you in action with our senior community and really appreciate the work you do. So if I could have a motion to appoint Kathleen to the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee.
Motion.
Yeah, I'll make them. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Kathleen,
Congratulations.
welcome to the committee.
Thank you, each and
Congratulations, Kathleen.
So now we will jump back into presentations. Mr. Marino. Probably waking you up. This is past your bedtime on a evening.
I have to go to work in an hour and a half. Good afternoon, evening. We're here today just to talk a little bit about the annual Battle of Yorktown. What basically it is it's volunteers that clean up areas in Yorktown. The program's run by Kristen, who's with me, and Nicole Fassi, that works out of the R&R office. The other thing I would like to state is if anybody sees any kind of areas in Yorktown that need attention, call my office and give them the location. Because during bulk season, when possible, I peel back a crew or two to give these areas attention. Without further ado, I will give you Kristen.
Thank you, Phil.
So, quick shout out. My mom was one of the awardees Sunday,
Oh.
Debbie Scherer. So, shout out to her.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Debbie. And also, I believe Mario from ANS Deli was one
Yes,
of them as well.
yes. So, to touch on what Phil said, basically, we just want to give people who aren't aware of what the battle is just an idea of what it is. The event's coming up April 26th, Saturday. It's just a day for residents to pitch in and help clean up the litter that is all over our streets. So in conjunction with Earth Day, it's a volunteer event, as I said, for residents to help clean up roadside litter in their neighborhood. First started in Yorktown in '88, so this is going to be our 37th cleanup event. So that's pretty cool. We provide for any volunteer orange bags, vests, safety vests, grabbers while supplies last. Those always go really quick. And we average about 500 volunteers every single year, which is awesome, and up to 10 tons of roadside litter as well. All are welcome. Families, individuals, community groups, scout troops, so call our office. Here's some pictures. We like to go out and take pictures of those who are volunteering, and we will start to put them on our website. Bill, I want to put them on our website so people can get recognition for what they're doing. But please, please, please make sure you call us so that we know where to send our crews to pick up the bags, so they're not just, sitting out there for weeks and weeks. So please call us, 914-245-4438. We appreciate your volunteer service for that. In addition, we also have our e-waste, our paint, our textile, and our tire drop-off that day as well. 7:30 to 2:30 in front of the police station. E-waste, obsolete electronics, computers, laptops, phones, tablets, you name it, we take it. Paint, that's our new program that we started
Super
in September.
important.
Yes. Just has to be in the original container with the original label, sealed, liquid paint. So you don't have to put the kitty litter in it. Also textiles, you can drop off textiles anywhere. We have lots of drop bins here at Town Hall, library, but you can also bring it to us at this event as well. In addition, tires, it says without rims there, but that's not true. You can put them on rims. $5 a fee per tire, and that's it. Hope to see you there.
Thank you. I have a couple questions before we disappear. So if I'm in a group and we don't pick up, we could get assigned an area?
Yeah, so I know a lot of people call us and they don't really have an area. We have areas we can recommend if you're looking for an area, especially for the younger kids. We want to keep them off the busier roads, so we have certain areas for them. So just give us a call, we can help you out on where to clean up.
If there's a solo person, is there some place that they can go and
Yeah,
hook
we
up
have-
with someone?
We have plenty of solo people, and we have people who actually ask, is there another solo person that I can link up with? Certainly you can do that as well.
Is there a central location that they should go to at a certain time or anything like that?
It depends on the location, because a lot of people participate every year, so it's a lot of the same groups. But we can certainly recommend an area if there's a single person to say, hey, why don't you go over here and help this person out there by themselves?
You'll pair them up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Very good. And I will recommend from my past experiences, wear long pants, rubber bands around the bottom of your pants to avoid ticks.
Yes.
Check yourself, check your clothing when you're done, and be very careful picking up bottles because it could be broken glass. You might not realize it, but it's a great way to celebrate Earth Day.
Yes.
I'll be out there that morning celebrating my 33rd wedding anniversary, as it normally falls around Earth Day, and but it's really a special thing, and as you said, up to 10 tons.
Yeah.
I seem to remember in the past one of them with 14 tons back in the day.
Yeah, we've done more than that. The 10 is the average, but
Yeah.
we've exceeded that.
I'm not sure you really
Unfortunately,
sold it.
plenty of times.
I said, I'm not sure you really sold it. You're like, watch out for ticks. Don't
No,
get
you-
caught.
hey, other than that,
It's great.
other
Or maybe throw out your trash when you get home, not out the window, or pick
Well-
up after yourselves.
well,
or
you do find in some areas
tell
that
your kids to take home all their trash from the field.
sometimes it's just wind blowing things out of recycling containers.
That's why we have the
we'll be
battle in your
optimistic.
town,
We'll be
but-
optimistic. So
And lastly, you can leave the bags where you pick them up. You don't have to bring them to us, just leave them there. If you can group them together, that's helpful, but if not, that's fine too. That's it.
Thanks, Kristen.
great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a good night.
Bye now.
All right, next up is Arbor Day.
Keith, that's you.
What- which I think is the day before this year, isn't it?
It's always the same Friday.
April 25th, though, correct?
Hi, I'm Keith Shepard, member of the Tree Commission Advisory Committee, and I'm here to inform the town and to invite the town and the town board to celebrate Arbor Day on Friday, April 25th at 5 o'clock. It'll be here at the town hall. We'll be planting a tree being provided from the Yorktown Tree Nursery. Will provide the tree this year. The town board needs to show up a little bit earlier so they can pick out the winners for the poster contest. 4th and 5th graders do a poster contest. This year, the theme is sugar maple. And we specifically wanted to do that so that people would realize that that's the New York State tree. So we're hoping that we'll get a good banner for next year. There'll be refreshments. There'll be free trees distributed for people to bring home with them. Arbor Day is a day set aside just for everybody to recognize the importance of trees and the benefits that they provide us. So I hope everybody comes. If you want to participate and help out, you can email trees@yorktownnewyork.gov. Okay? You going to be there?
I will be there.
All right, good.
Now, before you run away, so you mentioned the tree garden.
Tree nursery.
Talk about a tree nursery.
Yes.
Is that ours, the Yorktown Tree Nursery?
Yes, Yorktown Tree Nursery, located on the corner of Tulip and Curry Street. Also, if you want to volunteer to help with the growing of trees and maintenance of trees, again, you have to email trees@yorktownnewyork.gov.
YorktownNY.gov.
Thank you.
And what do the
Yorktown
posters do? Like,
Well, you can come and help us plant trees, move trees, trim trees, mulch trees, fertilize trees.
no, that part, I
But
get
you-
how to grow a tree.
Yeah.
But I'm saying for the event, like, will
Well,
the posters be?
for the event, we're going to be handing out seedlings. So they're bare-rooted seedlings. Con Ed actually donates them.
Yeah, we got them last year too,
And, you know, it's a beautiful thing. They have usually spruce trees, balsam fir, you know, some native trees that you can bring home.
Yeah.
And then we'll hopefully have some handouts to help you get educated on how to plant your own trees.
I still have 3 of them still growing.
Good.
Out of
3
32.
out of how many?
Out of 5.
Okay. Very well.
So-
Well,
so-
it's a very special day, and it's always a lot of fun, you know. And the kids are there. The Girl Scouts show up, and you know, we've always had a good time. And the posters will be displayed here in this room for most of the month of April, and then the winners of the contest are made into banners, and they just put them up in the town on Commerce Street, going through town. You'll see them on the light posts. And
Very good.
it's a very special day. It's the 14th day, 14th year, you know, that the town has done this. And it's a real core standard for us to maintain the Tree City designation. There's only 4,000 cities in the whole country that are Tree City. So just,
And we're one of them.
and we're one of them, yeah.
Did
So
I get your Tree City sign last year up in the
I
appropriate
love
spot?
that. That is the greatest spot.
You could thank Dave for
That is
for
the greatest
fully
spot.
cooperating. When I asked him, he grabbed it from me in a minute, and
No, that-
it was up shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, each year we get a new sign, Dave, just so you know, so you have something to do.
Well,
you
this
know.
will be our 15th year, right?
14th.
14th.
Yeah.
We
I know you don't have anything else to do but put up new signs.
And
And
he
then we
really,
gotta-
really, when I asked him, you asked me, I asked him, and it was
Yeah, because that's
2
such a
seconds.
focal point. You know,
Yeah.
you come into the middle of town. You know, and then the other signs are on the borders in different parts of the town. And you know, if you're out and about, just going on vacation and driving, there's a lot of places like, you know, that as you see that sign here in our town, you recognize it in other towns, and it's kind of nice to go, hey, well, so is my town. You know,
Right.
So it's a good thing.
So Keith, a couple quick things. First, I know that you're on the Tree Advisory Board, and we are short a couple of members there. So if anyone
Yes.
does like trees and wants to be involved with that, it's a volunteer committee in the town. But, I really want to, give a shout out and kudos to you and the group. And, we'll include the town going back in recognizing that, we lose trees. We lose them through storms. We lose them through development. Sometimes they just get diseased and die. And to have a tree bank, so to speak, where we are able to plant local trees in their, local species in their place
Yeah.
is very ahead of the curve.
Well, we have 250 trees now growing in the nursery. We have 2 different water zones. We have a shed where we can have our own tools.
Yep.
And we had a very successful tree planting day in November. Lisa from the Conservation Board helped facilitate that.
Yeah, she's great.
So even if you don't want to volunteer and get your hands dirty, I'm going to hopefully organize just days where people can come visit. We're going to have labels where people can come and get educated on, what tree to plant where. I think a lot of people don't realize that you just plant 1 tree a year.
Yep. And my last softball question is, could you use students looking for community service helping out? Are you able to sign off on their hours?
If there's a Boy Scout troop out there or a Girl Scout troop out there that wants to get merit badges, that's why we got this email, trees at Yorktown, New York.
NY, Yorktown, NY.
Trees at YorktownNY.gov.
I'm like 1 for 4 here.
You're doing a great job,
I
by
was
the way.
trying to do it again so I would get it right. But yes, trees at YorktownNY.gov.
Woo! All
Yeah.
right.
Keith, wait, Keith, stay there. I have one more question.
He's like, oh my God.
One more
Again,
question.
just so that I get it right the 6th time.
Thank you for your many years of service and for all of the things that the Tree Commission does. Could you just very briefly just remind homeowners when they need a tree permit? I think developers who come before the planning board know the rules, but many times homeowners don't.
Yeah.
And could you just quickly go through it in very broad strokes?
That's not a simple answer to that. Pretty much the size of trees, if it's greater than a 24-inch, 2-foot diameter measured 4 feet off the ground, doesn't matter if 1, 2, 10, 1 tree is a specimen tree. And the reason why the town designated that as a specimen tree is a larger tree produces more oxygen, does a better job with erosion control. They're finding that the larger trees actually represent the biggest benefits.
So
They've
you
done
need
studies in the Amazon where 1% of the large trees in the Amazon do the bulk of the work for all the other trees.
So you need a permit if you're going to cut down
A very
even
large
just
tree.
one. Basically, call it a very large tree. Most people wouldn't be able to measure
Very
it,
large tree, like the ones
deviation.
that are continually being cut down on Curry Street without permits. But the other thing is border tree. If you have a property and you said, between houses, those trees have a designation as a border tree because if you've lived in a house for a long time and you get a new neighbor and the new neighbor decides they want to cut down that privacy screen, there's got to be a regulation. It's not that you can't get the permit. It's just that it needs to be reviewed, okay? The other thing is the number of trees. A half-acre lot, you can cut down 10 trees. A protected tree is 8 inches or greater. So small trees don't count as much. There's a big difference between residential requirements and commercial requirements, okay? And the Conservation Board, the Tree Commission Advisory Committee reviews that, the Planning Board reviews that. Sometimes the town board is in charge of it as the designated official review. When in doubt, just call up Town Hall.
And speak to whom?
I think it's
The
the
engineering.
engineering office, and also that there's no charge for the permit. So for the average homeowner who just wants to cut down one very large tree or up to 10 trees, it's a relatively simple, straightforward process.
Yeah, there's no charge for a tree permit, and really what we're trying to do is not give the permits. We want to try to keep track of how many trees we're cutting down.
Yeah.
The town of North Castle lost track of how many trees were being cut down. It's a large area. All of a sudden, they did some studies and they realized that over 10% of the town had been cut down. So now they're doing this incredible tree planting program. You know, I mean, when you drive around Yorktown, you're like, oh, there's a lot of trees. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of trees, and we're fortunate to have that. You know, but we don't want to, suddenly just lose track of it and just have people cutting down trees. Because in the summertime, when it's real hot out, everybody wants shade, right?
Yeah. Trees have values.
Yeah, so there's a lot to be done, even in the downtown Yorktown area, and that's for next week. I'll be here for a work session.
Okay, thank you very
Can
much.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? I get at least 10 calls a week regarding trees. What is the commission's position on dead trees? I mean dead.
A dead tree.
Does a dead tree require a permit?
No, a dead tree doesn't require a permit. A hazardous tree doesn't require a permit. Something that's being done under emergency conditions do not need a permit. And non-native trees don't need a permit. And we've had this happen. People come in with these great blueprints, and they tell us we're cutting down 80 trees, and they have it listed as maple. And we turn to them and go, well, is it a Norway maple, sugar maple, which is our theme this year, or is it a red maple?
So,
And it's hard to tell the difference. You need someone that knows how to do that kind of ID. But Norway maple, you don't need a permit.
a permit.
So it's not, and it's not that we're trying to deny the permits. We're trying to actually help the people understand the differences.
Thank you. Because people seem to be under the impression, based on when I speak to them, that there's like an allotment that they're allowed to take down. And I say to them, if the tree is dead, you could take down as many of them as you want. Correct? I'm not incorrect in
dead?
saying that.
The dead tree, you do not need a permit for. But for a homeowner to say, I want to cut down this tree, I'm afraid. The tree's a big tree, right? That's not recognized as a hazard. Okay, a homeowner
Oh,
cannot,
I know. Trust
a
me.
homeowner cannot say this is hazardous. You need a certified arborist or a forester or somebody that has the credentials, because there's national standards of what makes a tree hazardous. So just because somebody's afraid of a tree does not give them that identification of hazardous.
But dead is dead.
But dead is dead.
Okay, thank you.
Dead is dead.
No kidding. And so you measure when you go to measure the tree, right? Isn't it like you measure the circumference and divide it by pi or something like that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you could take a tape measure and go around the tree 4.5 feet off the ground,
Uh-huh.
and then divide by pi.
Divide by pi, and that's the inches that you get.
That's the diameter.
Mhm.
It takes about 50 to 75 years for a tree to get that size. So when people are cutting down these trees that are specimen trees, that's the legacy of that property.
Yeah, it's 75 years.
Yeah, it's a long time.
All righty.
So remember, trees at yorktownny.gov.
You got this, Keith.
And we need,
You are the man. You are the man. I am impressed. Look, he's sparking.
and the tree commission does need some volunteers that they meet. Keith, I think it's the second Wednesday of the month. Just one meeting at roughly 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Where?
They meet at the community center building. The second Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Second Wednesday of the month at 5 o'clock.
Right.
All righty.
Next up, we have Girl Scouts from Lakeland East Unit 703.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Lynn Canizero, and I am the proud service unit manager for Lakeland East Girl Scouts. We represent 18 troops, 36 troop leaders, 169 girls at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School, Benjamin Franklin Elementary School, Lakeland Copper Beach Middle School, and Lakeland High School. I want to thank you for inviting our Girl Scout service unit to this town board meeting. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Lakeland East Service Unit to request your permission. For the month of October, we would like to attach handmade scarecrows with rope to each 14 of the light posts lining Supervisor Tom Diana Memorial Highway in front of the John C. Hart Library. Each troop would be responsible for creating, putting up, and taking down the scarecrows. The scarecrows would be hung up from October 19th to November 2nd. Mm-hmm. Yorktown Girl Scouts already hold this activity down Commerce Street. Yep. We would like to bring this tradition to our home base of Shrub Oak. We have met with the wonderful people at John C. Hart Library, like Yvonne, Christine, and Colin, to discuss and collaborate regarding this request. If approved, the theme for these scarecrows are mighty women in children's books.
Not Taylor Swift?
No.
Thank God.
Okay. Our troops will each choose a mighty woman character, such as Pinkalicious, Matilda, Ramona, Nancy Drew, Hermione Granger, and Rose Revere, just to name a few.
Cool.
In order to sweeten the deal, we have brought you some Girl Scout cookies for you to enjoy.
Oh, right to your heart.
I feel like I'm on Shark Tank.
Thank you.
You guys better make sure you disclose this on your ethics form.
And actually, these girls are fulfilling one of their requirements for the democracy badge for all of their levels by being here at this town board meeting.
Congratulations.
Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Actually, I have a favor to ask. Young lady, could you come here? Yep. In the second row over there, the second seat in, that gentleman is a veteran. Would you please hand those to him? No, that's him. Dan, you got him.
Aww. Earning that badge.
I will throw in, for those of you that don't know, my wife, to help my diabetes stay in check, does buy Girl Scout cookies and gives them to the veterans, because you guys do such great work sending stuff to the veterans. We just had something at the American Legion Post recently where they were doing cards and packages to send overseas, and it's some great work. And I thank you all for serving your community.
Thank you.
Can I get a picture, you guys, for the newspaper? Can you get two people, two on each side?
Sir, just get up. Go take it.
No, I'll take it from you. All right, you ready? That's perfect. Here we go.
Do it for the Insta.
Thank you.
There you go, girls.
Thanks, guys.
Keep up the good work.
Do we have any other veterans in the room, by the way? No other veterans? All right.
Thank you for the cookies, guys.
Of course,
Appreciate it.
I mean, I'm all for this. I think it's great, and it sounds like Yvonne's all for it too.
Well, yes, I don't think, I think we could formalize it with a resolution in the next board meeting. But, yeah, I believe that this is something, and, you know, it's funny because Tom Diana used to say how, you know, they were the redheaded stepchild on that side of town, and that, you know, he wanted more things to happen there, and really started, we have the tree lighting now at the library, and really had worked at a lot of things, so this would fit right along with his dreams and desires to have that Okie from Shrub Okie very happy. So,
yeah, and please spread the word. Bring more of it. I mean, I remember back when I first started sitting up here, I wanted to do like almost like a brick road right from this side of town to that side of town and back, because obviously as a somatic practitioner I deal with a lot of kids and conflicts of the schools, and I'm like, but what if we all had the same path and we needed everyone's brick to make it, because if not, you don't have a community, right? You got to work together. So yes, so if you have any other things that are happening that maybe they just want to take up space. Just bring it. We have more than a couple ears to listen to it.
Yep. Thank you.
No, thank you. And you guys can go do your homework now. You don't have to stay.
Ne-
Good to see you guys.
Speaking of homework, next up, our Yorktown Youth Council.
I am.
Dominic, I'm glad you got the memo about the tie.
Oh my
I was just
God.
about to say, before I begin, I have to mention that we got matching ties, so I must be doing something right tonight.
Or wrong, it depends on who you talk to.
We'll go with right. Good evening. My name is Dominic Fideli, and I'm a senior at Yorktown High School. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to represent the Youth Council in front of the board for the second time. It's a great honor. I was part of the original founding group for the Youth Council and have had the distinct pleasure of serving in a leadership role for the past 3 years. I would like to thank former Supervisor Slater for his efforts to bring a Youth Council to Yorktown, Supervisor Lochterman for your unwavering support and attending several of our recent meetings, and the entire town board for prioritizing the role of youth in our community. The mission of the Yorktown Youth Council has remained unchanged since our founding and guides all of our efforts to promote positive youth involvement in the community, provide a safe forum that allows youth to express ideas, concerns, and comments, and to support youth-inspired community service projects. Over the past 3 years, we have worked with the Yorktown Lions, the John C. Hart Library, and other community organizations to advance our mission. We've had the opportunity to connect with various local leaders and have had productive discussions about issues facing youth in Yorktown. At the start of this year, the Yorktown Central School District inaugurated a Superintendent's Youth Council, largely inspired by the success of our group. Of course, none of this would be possible without the incredible support of various community leaders. I would like to take a moment to extend a special thank you to John Campabasso, President of the Yorktown Athletic Club, for his continued support of our mission and generous contributions to the Council for the past 3 years. Mr. Campabasso has supported us from the very beginning. In fact, you'll see, this is Jillian.
Hi, Jillian.
The shirts that Jillian and all of our members have been given were generously donated by Mr. Campabasso, so thank you to him for his continued support. I reserve my most important thanks to the end. She's hiding over there in the corner, but there is perhaps nobody in our community who has done more for youth than Liz. In addition to her decades of volunteer service with the Alliance for Safe Kids, various PTAs in the Yorktown Central School District, and other organizations, she's dedicated countless hours to the Youth Council over the past 3 years. None of this would be possible without her, so please join me in recognizing Liz Talbert for all she's done for the youth of our community. Thank you so much for your time. I already did introduce, but I'd like to call Jillian up here to speak to you about our upcoming event at Beaver Ridge.
Great.
Hi, I'm Jillian. I'm a junior at Yorktown High School, and Dominic did a wonderful job explaining our organization and our mission, so thank you. I'd like to add on by telling you all about an event that the Youth Council, we've been working hard to plan, and we're excited to introduce. So every member of the Youth Council came to the table with at least one concept that they wanted to focus on in the community. I've always been committed to improving the connection between the youth and the senior citizens in our town. After bringing this concept to the Youth Council, I was faced with a wonderful group of peers, as well as the amazing Liz Talbert, who all joined in to plan an initiative with this exact goal of connecting the youth and older generations. With that being said, we are thrilled to announce that on April 12th, we will be hosting a breakfast with the senior residents of Beaver Ridge, and many high school students will be in attendance as well. We are planning on serving a continental breakfast, participating in interesting conversations between the students and the seniors, and enjoying activities such as decorating shirts and playing trivia. An 8th grader who is an active member also made a playlist of some of the hits from the 50s that we'll be listening to. And the planning of this event would not be possible without the overwhelming support of our community and our local businesses. So after reaching out to several businesses and organizations in hopes of finding sponsors for our events and donations, I'd love to share with you what we've received so far.
Yeah, of course.
So I'll start by thanking Supervisor Lockerman for his support in guiding us as we've been searching for donations, as well as the generous donation from his family business, Ice Cream Emergency. And the Yorktown Athletic Club and Mr. Campabasso have also made a generous donation, as well as JV Bagels, Uncle Giuseppe's, BJ's, ShopRite, and Burger King. We're in the process of following up with the Bagel Emporium, Dunkin' Donuts, and Acme on any possible donations from them. We're beyond grateful for all of this support we've received so far, and please let us know if you have any additional suggestions or connections concerning sponsors and donations for our event, because it really wouldn't be possible without it. We'd also love to see some of you town board members at our event, so if you're available, it's on April 12th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So if you're available and want to come out, we'd love to see you there. And thank you for listening, and please let us know if you have any questions or suggestions for us.
Let's keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And when this one is a success this year, remember next year we have a senior community in Wynwood Oaks and Shrub Oak. So you can do a repeat.
We're looking forward.
And feel free to get my information from Liz, and I'm happy to help you with some of the donations.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say that I've worked with the youth a lot in our community over the years. I find the new focal point with the youth councils, both here and in the high school, tremendous. Now, is it because it's something that puts you together on a common cause, or is it because of the people that are doing it? And I must say, knowing the two of you now, and I find it amazing. You're both tenacious. You both work for what you want. You're both very well spoken, and you really strive for that success and making this. I spoke to Phil over at JV Bagels, and I was like, you know what, Phil, don't let Dominic know that I spoke to you. And he's like, oh, too late. He was in already. But you chase down the leads. You guys are doing great work. A lot of the people I've spoken to in the community just find it amazing, and the community leaders want to try. Business leaders really want to try to support. So I encourage you to keep knocking on those doors, not just now, but as you go through life and as you want to move up and do different things. I know you guys will be successful, and this is the proof is in the pudding, and this is the pudding here. You guys are really bringing it home. So thank you for that. Thank you for the community.
So unfortunately, with the 12th, it lands right smack dab in the middle of the varsity baseball senior trip to Florida. So that's where I'll be. I'm real sorry I can't make it, but send me an email tomorrow, and I will definitely have a check come your way. And if you just keep me apprised of some of the events, I'd love to come support you guys as well.
Thank
all
you
right.
so
Send me a
much.
check. Send me a check. Send me an email tomorrow. See how I did that? It was like pretty smooth. You see how I did it?
Dominic,
So-
I'll make sure I give you his email address to track that one down.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And Liz, keep up the good work.
Yes.
As usual.
Liz,
It's
thank
pretty.
you.
It's heartfelt.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Go finish up your homework too. All right. So next up is something that really is for working in through next year, and some things that we're going through, but to keep people keep people in the loop on what's happening. There have been some ongoing, decades-long issues with the way that the sewer systems, especially in the Peekskill district, have been funded, where it's definitely not an equal evaluation. So we've been looking at this for the last year, trying to get some progress on it. And Dan, where are we at this point? Why don't you talk to us about the sewer rates?
Sure. As you mentioned, we've kind of got this patchwork of methodologies we use to collect sewer revenue. And it really raises some issues about how to do things properly. So what I'll do is I'll give the board some background on how this all came to be. And hopefully at the end we can begin to look at a path forward to try to rectify this and come up with an equitable way to collect revenue to make sure everybody's paying their fair share. All right. So the issue is not about debt, it's about operation and maintenance. And to kind of get a little bit of background how we got there, the town, everything, the way it all started was with sewage treatment plants. 3 of them built by developers and 1 of them built by the town. So we had, so the revenue comes in from 2 sources for operation and maintenance. The property tax, and then within our fee schedule in the budget, we have a couple of different things. There's Halleck's Mill. People pay $1.20 per 1,000 gallons of water usage. And the people in Halleck's Mill are paying O&M. It's a little different because there's also a wastewater treatment plant, but we are collecting O&M expenses for the treatment plant and the maintenance of facilities outside of the treatment plant through taxes and through the sewer rent. In Chalet is we assess funds at $1.50 per 1,000 gallons, and that was established to pick up the properties that are tributary to the Chalet pump station, which is sort of all the condominiums in Mohegan there in the northwest corner of town. And then finally, we define something as the Shrub Oak lateral sewer operating district, and that again is at $1.50 per 1,000, and that was to kind of pick up everybody who wasn't in Osceola or in Chalet. So to go back just briefly through the history, Osceola comes from a treatment plant that was built. It's called the Osceola Treatment Plant. It sits where Jefferson Woods apartments are now. It was eliminated when the county interceptor came along to town. So that went away in the early 80s. The Jefferson Valley Treatment Plant, that was, again, that treated pretty much like the Crossroads neighborhood over there. Developer built, given to the town, and then ultimately in the 70s when he expanded the plant, we put a pump station there and got rid of it. Lakeside Village was another plant that handled like Mark Road and Ellen, that community over there, west of Mohansick Avenue. Developer built and handed over to us. And then finally, our own treatment plant, which is the Yorktown Heights treatment plant. There's another treatment plant in the mix, which people pay taxes to, and that's the Peekskill plant, but we have no jurisdiction over that. They send us a tax warrant. We accordingly collect the tax that's due them for the operation and maintenance of the Peekskill plant, which has always been a rub because the initial district that was established for the plant, people, even if they weren't connected, paid the debt and the O&M. So that's why there was a move many years ago to pull people out that felt the probability of getting sewers was low. So there are properties that were out, some stayed in, but that's what we have. So this map, basically, I don't think the laser pointer doesn't work on this, but sort of the northwest corner of town is what goes to Peekskill. There's another area there, kind of central to that plan, on the west side, which is Hunter Brook, which also goes to Peekskill, and then everything else goes to the Yorktown treatment plant. So, so we started with 4 treatment plants that we operated. It went to 1 plus the county. So those are the 2 places where wastewater from town goes to. So sewer districts get created in a variety of ways. When the town board does it, we do it, one method is to do it by petitions. They do a map plan report, we explain to people what the rate will be, and then establish a district based upon that. Now, this method is not for, well, ultimately it does go to O&M, but the purpose of it is to build the infrastructure. This is what we do when we build collection systems. So that can be done either by the petition. The town board could also do it on their own motion. So there's a number of districts in town that the town borrowed money and constructed at their cost. The other method is what's called a no-cost district, and that's when a developer builds infrastructure and hands it off to us. But when they do that, we need to establish a district. Reason being is, as we take possession of that infrastructure, we have to have a mechanism to collect revenue to maintain that system. You know, after the handoff, there's pump stations, there's pipes. They have to be cleaned and maintained. So this colorful patchwork here shows you the 13 sewer districts that we currently budget for and levy taxes for. And the objective of what we're trying to do here is to distill the 13 down to 2. That the Yorktown Sewer District and what goes there, and then everything else that goes to Peekskill. And part of the rationale for doing that is the New York State DEC only sees Peekskill as one entity. They don't care that we've got all these little districts. So in other words, when they tell us you have to do an inflow and infiltration study and set monitors throughout the collection system, how do you pay for that, and how do you properly budget for it, and how do you properly allocate that fund when you have this situation of 13 districts compounded by the fact that some of the people are paying through their water bill. So there's no uniform way to assess those folks. So the revenue comes from 2 places. Some of it is established in our sewer code. So the total 2025 tax levy, this isn't the budget, this is what we actually levy against the various 13 districts, is approximately $3.4 million. Separate from that, the 3 water billing entities, which is 3 of them, total about $500,000. So that becomes our townwide revenue for dealing with, and I should actually back up on that, because the tax levy includes, of those 13 districts, some have debt, some don't. So that includes everything, debt and operation and maintenance for those guys. So when you boil it down, the sewer tax levy for just the Peekskill guys is that amount for 2025. And then when you pull out the debt, you get down to 560. So that other part of that difference is kind of fixed, because some of those districts still have debt associated with them. You can't just
Can't merge them.
You can't merge them, because that debt has got to stay with those people. So once you peel out the actual O&M expenses, and this is based upon, I'm calling it an estimated 2026, but that's extracting the O&M expenses out of our 2025 budget. That's where we end up. And then if I take out the Chalet and the Shrub Oak water billing, that comes out to about $190,000. So figure for this Peekskill only O&M situation, you're talking about $750,000. So the idea would be to budget that as one budget, but to establish a methodology for properly assessing it. So this is kind of what you're looking at right now, which kind of makes your head spin. We got to do 13 districts. Budget-wise, it's a little over $6 million that we, in the budget. That's not what we collect, but that's what we have to budget for every year. So that's Yorktown and the 12 Peekskill districts.
So Dan, real quick for the people at home, you're basically just trying to level set the O&M portion of the sewer. That's what this exercise is about.
Because you have this patchwork.
I just wanted to clarify for the people at home.
Thank you. Yeah, because you have this patchwork, and it's like, how do you properly allocate expenses when it's this mixed bag of all different things? So That's the objective. So what ends up happening here on the district stuff, you'll see some of the stuff is set at 0. And the reason some of those districts in 2026 are 0 is because we don't need them anymore. The debt is paid off. So they were paying O&M, but if we follow through on this concept, then you don't need them anymore. So one of the ideas we were throwing around is we've been, in Yorktown, we have this thing where we're collecting some tax for revenue and we're collecting through the water usage. So one of the things we did is we looked at, if we wanted to apply that same method here, whether we want to do tax and water, have some baseline amount of revenue we can count on based on tax revenue, and then the rest of it based upon usage. It becomes pretty, in a sense, it becomes kind of easy if we try and what we used is the DEC has a guidance document for when you build wastewater infrastructure where you can estimate flows. So based upon that, we said, okay, the baseline for everything will be a single family home, and that we put at 1 unit. So then using that, then condominiums come in about 0.67. And then it follows that, we're looking at 1 families, 2 families, and then when it gets a little messy, if we use their method, it's a 1/10 of a unit per 1,000 square feet. So you end up with, you could have a small restaurant that uses a lot of water, and you could have a self-storage place that, 3 people use the toilet twice a day kind of thing. So, there is an inequity in taxing in that method. But, so the question here is, do we want to do a mixed bag of tax and water usage, or just stick with water usage, which obviously is, limited to their actual demand on the system? Of course, you'll get people that'll complain about, well, I water my lawn, I wash my car, I filled my pool. So, so what goes in doesn't always necessarily come out. And even like the big users that use a lot of water, say that have a cooling tower, will argue, well, we have a lot of evaporative loss. So you're not getting it on the back end. So I don't, so those are, some of the issues you could encounter. But I wanted to at least, lay out what the problem is so we can begin to have a discussion as to what the appropriate solution is.
Okay. Are you finished, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for this. This is something that I've been working on for quite some time. One of the other issues in terms of the fairness, which is what you started out with saying, is that we haven't had an equitable, an accurate, reasonable way, since all of the bills are actually paid out of one fund, the Halleck's Mill or the YS, Yorktown Sewer District. So even if a piece of equipment is purchased for a Peekskill Sewer District, and there are 11 separate districts.
Hold on, because one of the things I finally prevailed on this past budget we did was to increase line items so that we could properly charge equipment to the appropriate district. So
Yes.
That's something.
They've been working on this, because historically, I think the roughly 4,000 people, property owners in Halleck's Mill, frankly, have probably been subsidizing in terms of some of the operation and maintenance costs. The other factor that still is, I think Dan is still working on this, is the staff time. Equipment is one thing, but there's also the staff time of the people who are paid for out of the YS fund, who are doing work maintaining some of the lines and the pump stations in the Peekskill system. All of this, I think, has come to a point, so it's a question of fairness, everyone paying their fair share, just the way the town board recently did with the water rates and with the meters. You just pay your fair share across the board. This has to be done since we're creating this new Peekskill O&M district. We're taking the separate 11 districts, and instead of them going to have an operation and maintenance line item for their water usage, their telephone lines, for a piece of equipment that they need, it's all going to come out of one district. This has to be done in terms of the town tax bill. You have to create a separate taxing district. And the deadline for adopting the 2025 tax roll the tentative roll is May 1st. So the town board has to create this district, which then would be charged in the 2026 tax bill. And then you have to assign the unit charges, because now the way people are paying their sewer tax, in some districts, one single-family house is 2 units. In another district, it's 1 unit. Actually, I found something just the other day. There's one sewer district where the property owners are paying into 2 sewer districts. That was kind of a surprise for me. And I think as part of this whole process, Dan has discovered that there were roughly 400 properties that weren't paying any sewer tax. And I think his department has done a good job in kind of identifying these. So again, it's just evolved over time, over many years, probably going back into, the 70s and maybe before then. Before then, there's been lack of consistency, lack of not great record keeping, and Dan's office has been trying to work to fix this hodgepodge.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a can of worms, but it needs to be addressed.
And we don't have all of the answers now, but I think this is a start to create this new sewer, this peak skill O&M. The districts that have bonding, of the 11 districts, 4 do not have any bonding, so they will just pay an O&M charge. If you're in a district like the Goma Street district, you will still pay your bonding for the Goma Street district, but then you'll have your separate peak skill O&M charge that will show up. And at this point, I don't think we have the figures yet as to what that charge will be, and that will be available when we do the budget in October.
Roughly, we're figuring about $75. And
for a single family, that's what you use. The other issue is the commercial, which has been, I think, the big problem in terms of how it gets done. And I understand the problem with water usage, and maybe we also have to, I think, consolidate, have everyone pay the same rate per thousand. You said Halleck's Mill is paying $1.20, Chalet's paying $1.50.
It's less important because Yorktown is an entity in and of itself, and it becomes sort of the question sort of on the table tonight as to whether you lean heavier on tax or heavier on usage. I mean, part of it was kept low for many years. One of the reasons was prior to the salt deduction being limited, that philosophically we felt it was better to let people pay more of it on their taxes because it would be deductible as opposed to paying a utility bill. So that was one of the factors that went into it. Maybe it's kind of a moot issue now with the cap, and that most people their tax rate exceeds the $10,000.
Well, in terms of dealing with the unit costs, which would be on the tax bill, okay, there's a question, as you said, a restaurant and a warehouse could be the same square footage, but have very, very different water usages. And since the sewer charge is related to water usage, is that the best way to deal it? You're proposing on a square foot basis, and then pick up the difference in the sewer rent charge, which is based on water. That's one question I have. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, we did use to try and have a defendable methodology. We used this DEC guidance document, which predicts flows, but it also can get complicated. Say for example, you want to do a Jefferson Valley Mall, right? Being one of the big ones, right? So you've got restaurants, you've got dry retail. What's the right flow to use there? Obviously, the right flow is what goes through the water meters, right? That's the So it would be simple, with just the single families and the condos, and and just to clarify, like some of those you were mentioning, like the things that were like 2 units, we use a different unit charge methodology when we actually construct lateral sewer districts, and that's because of the state's requirements You know, we have to use something on whether we provide service, how many square feet the lot is, how much frontage they have, and it provides a little bit more of a nexus as to what we have to expend to build the system against what demand a property has. It's obviously more efficient if you have two 50, lots with 50 feet of frontage facing each other as opposed to a zone where you have 150. You just had to put in three times more pipe to serve the same number of properties. So that's why and that does factor in because now, in these districts that we're still taxing through the old, debt district, some of those people are paying at 2 units. Whereas if you go to Osceola, everybody pays based on 1 unit. So it's
All right, now, I can understand that. So if we stick with the square footage for the commercial properties, then can we also consolidate
Susan, I'm sorry. Can we sort of talk about what we're going to do on that when we start our public hearings and all, or get ready for it? Because I'm sure other people have some questions.
Well,
and
then,
still
let
have a
me,
bit to go.
all right, two other questions. If we're going to do this for the May 1st assessment roll, do we have to, does the board need, I've been told we just need a resolution to create the district. Does that resolution also set the unit charges for the different types of properties?
Yeah, we should memorialize it, and probably the thing to do is we're gonna, ultimately, we have to update the revenue section of the sewer code. That's where all this stuff is laid
That's
out.
where the sewer rents are, yeah.
No, well, the sewer rents are cited because they're actually in the master fee schedule in the budget. So by reference,
I think they're in the sewer, they're in the law. I think they're in the law.
But I forget, but
Yeah.
either way, I believe the sewer code makes reference to the master fee schedule. It may be redundant, but either way, what we would do is that sewer code would lay it out, and whether we go with this method, I mean, the other way which you could go is to just say, you know what, let's just run with water usage. Forget about trying to have a fixed tax rate and trying to come up with unit assessments for these properties, and in which case, then all we have to do is when we adopt the budget, that we put in a budget number for, well, we'd have to update the sewer code first, but then the budget would have a number that we needed to collect, or I should say collect, but that the budget to operate it, and then if we needed to tweak the rates, we could just do it in the master fee schedule.
I have no problem with doing it through the tax bill and having the unit charge. I think, and then we can always adjust. And if that's what we do in the resolution, so that when Gary does the tentative assessment roll on May 1st, and we need the resolution for that, we agree on the unit charge issue for the assessment, and then we work out the sewer rent charge, which is based on the water usage, as a separate issue. But
I think that would need a discussion because on the one hand, you have, if you go with water usage, right, you're going to, every house is going to have different water usage, of course. And your concern is that some people might be overcharged because they're watering the lawn, but that water is not making it back into the sewer. So why would they be paying for that water if we're not the water? Why would they be paying for the sewer charge for water that they're not putting into the system? The other way, you have a concern there too. I think the concern would be that my unit, I have a 3-family. I have a 3-bedroom house, and my kids are away at college, or they moved out of the house. And you have a 3-bedroom house, and you got 3 kids living there. You're going to have more water. You're going to have more sewer usage. So now I'm going to be overpaying because I'm only one person living in the house. So there's a concern here either way as to the fairness of it all. And I think there's going to have to be some kind of a determination because I don't think it's cut and dry.
Well, the other example I would give you is, the system deteriorates over time. You got roots growing into pipes. You get so one way to look at it, if you're a snowbird and you're using no water for months, that pipe in front of your house is still subject to the same level of deterioration, even though you're not providing water to the system. So, you know, the philosophical issue is, do you want to have some base amount of money that you're collecting irregardless of somebody's usage? And then you know, it's more complicated to do that because we have to come up with a unit charge. The residential ones are easy. The
But it wouldn't
commercial
be a
ones are a little tricky.
it wouldn't be a base amount of money. It would be it wouldn't be a base amount of money plus, you know, any kind of additional stuff that you're putting into the sewer system. Right? It would just be a base amount of money.
I'm saying a mixed bag, that you do both things.
Oh,
yeah.
So I think that would be
the fairest.
Yeah,
I mean that sounds I think a good compromise, something in the middle, because you're right, because the person that is going to be contributing more to the deterioration of the system is the person that's not actually using it. It's like parking a car and not starting it or a pool. You don't open your pool every year. It's a nightmare, right? 2 years later, it's a nightmare. So it's the same concept, I think.
Yeah, and if the guy's tree in front of his house is the one that's growing into the pipe and breaking it apart, even if he's in Florida, his tree's still breaking apart.
So Dan, I had a couple of quick questions. The $1.50 per 1,000 gallon. When did that come into effect? About?
I think it came. I mean, we started doing those two districts, I want to say, like 30 years ago. You know, something like that. Because
they've never been changed since in the 30 years.
I don't know if they were originally $1.20. They may have been $1.20. I don't recall, but you know, either way, it's been in that ballpark all that time.
Diana, do you remember? I know you had pulled the original.
Originally, it was done, we had a Chapter 77, which was Local Law 16 of 1996. That was later, the code was codified in 1997, which changed it to Chapter 240. So the time frame was, obviously, it was about the same then. They just changed it over in the code. It didn't change the amount.
Yeah, those are the other question I have in terms of unit charges is, you have one family, two family, three family. What about multifamily? The one I can just think of offhand is Jefferson Woods. How would that be assessed?
We would use that.
The square footage?
No, we'd go by, do a bedroom count.
Just a bedroom count on that. Do we have figures that on the multifamily ones, how many bedrooms in
Yeah, I
in the
believe Gary
development?
has that.
We have that,
Yeah.
okay. So I think just for going forward, if we just do a resolution next week or by April 15th, so that
Well,
Gary
I think
has
some
this.
other board members might have some comments before we get to a resolution.
Yeah, I'm not
Have
just,
any-
I'm not just saying tonight, no, I'm just saying.
I understand what you're saying, Susan, and I know the limitations, the timeline. I've been working on this a year, trying to unravel 30 years of history. And I thank you, Dan. I also want to thank Diana for digging out a lot of documents that she did, and also thank Gary Link, our assessor, because I know you were working hand in hand with him, going through the roles. This, unfortunately, and I've said a lot of times, we suffer the sins of our fathers. This is one that's been there a long time that just never got equalized. I think you asked the question, why didn't anyone do this before? And I think Dan's answer was they didn't want to.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get this where it needs to be. I don't like paying fair share as the example. We want things equal. I think everyone should, equality is a wonderful thing. And I think that this is really what this project is about, so at least was when I started and what we're working on. But we should have that equality as we look at the structure. I know, Dan, you had mentioned the levy before, and the idea here is not to increase the levy, but the idea is really to assess the levy properly and equally along all of the
As one
households.
entity.
Right. So it's been a lot of work to get it to this point. I don't know if anyone else had any more questions, but
I have one quick question. So when it comes to these kind of like what has debt, what does not have debt, my question to you is it because of the type of loan that it is that obviously we cannot combine it? I guess this is more like an Adam question as well. But sometimes you can go out and get other money and pay off the debt so that and then attach it to something else. Each one of these is stuck with these districts, right?
Well, the debt the debt has to stay with who it is.
In the
You know,
district.
that group of people. The district was established, and whether it was 10 people in the district, they're locked.
Well, I
Those
agree.
10
I agree with the district and those who are contributing. I'm just curious if there's a way for us to get rid of some of the debt
One of
and
the
balance it out. So who's using it,
one
who's
of
not using it?
One of the things we looked at, looks like a number of the districts are still on bond anticipation notes.
Okay.
And those
to
districts
go.
actually have fund balances.
Oh.
So, the objective here is not only, which will make it a lot easier on people if, when the dust settles on this, that most people aren't going to, maybe be paying a little bit less. That would, be, be.
Yeah, because it would be offset by their fund balance, which is in their distinct district.
And, and
That has to stay
possibly
within.
getting.
Yeah,
a
the
better-
good stays just like the bad stays. Yeah.
And possibly getting better, to refinance the debt, depending upon, I don't know how much more time is left on those bans, but we could explore that.
I guess I'm just asking.
Dan, I
if
thought we
just-
were exploring it already. Did you ask Janelle for those numbers, or? Because we
No,
spoke
no.
about that last week.
Yeah, I'll make sure I have it for when we get together next
Because
time.
eventually, at some point, there's going to be a date where there is no more of this pre-existing debt, right? Then moving forward, any debt will be
Yeah,
charged
it's
the
going to
whole
get
district.
paid off, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
All right, so where do we stand in terms of the Peekskill O&M district?
So-
What do we have to do? And
So-
do we need more
so-
Can I just say
discussion?
one thing
Yeah,
real quick?
sure, go on, Ted.
So, Dan, I applaud you guys. The tedious and time-consuming work you guys done. I'd rather take it nice and slow and get it right, and you guys seem to have done that, which is nice. You guys did a great job. Now, when you get through paying all those bonds, is there still going to be a fund balance to take care of some of the pumps?
Maintenance,
Well,
maintenance.
hold on. I could help you with that. It would make sense to pay off any loans with fund balance as we condense them. The whole purpose of condensing to the Peekskill O&M is to get that. So the ideal situation would be there'd be a wash between what we have in fund balance to what we pay out.
Yeah.
But I think
and-
excuse me,
and-
Supervisor, I don't mean to cut you off. I think one of the things I think this board is constantly trying to stress is, and I'm hearing this in what you're saying, is the pumps, even if it washes the liens, the pumps are going to fail.
But
Things
that-
are going
but
to
that-
break.
That is
Line item
operation
O&M.
and maintenance,
O&M
which
pays
is
for that, but-
exactly what this is all about.
But how do we keep that line to grow? Because I'm finding we have a maintenance line and it's based on.
It's taxed every year. That's exactly what this whole conversation is about. To have one O&M account for these 13 districts instead of 13, because when something does go, it affects different areas, or we're under consent for INI. How do you break it up?
Well, you break it up based on the date that you put it in. When you put in a door and you did it in 2025,
That's not.
But what I'm
as
saying, if
Dan-
it's one line, you're going to end up also fixing the things that are already broken that have maybe tape on them now.
So the two things, let me clarify, because one of the things, and again, we'll look how many more years are left.
Yeah, okay.
So, for example, if a district has a fund balance, what we can do is either, if the bond will allow it, either pay down the principal, or if not, to
Could you put it into the O&M?
reduce their tax payment by levying less tax to burn up the fund balance. Because that fund balance kind of belongs to the people who developed it. And, sort of related to that, this district will ultimately start to develop a fund balance. And again, it's a bit of a philosophical issue. You want to maintain a fund balance, for rainy day fund, but the issue, and it's a real philosophical one, is that if you overtax people, if I overtax you and you move out of your house, and the
I don't
new
get it
owner,
back when I move.
the new owner benefits from it, an improvement that's got a 30-year life, was that fair to you? And
I mean, it's not.
and that's why.
Life's also not fair, but I'm just.
But my point being, with big ticket items, it's more equitable. If something's going to cost $100,000 and it's got a 20-year life, why not bond it? Because now you've spread it out. The life of that asset and how you're paying for it is spread out over the 20 years.
Yeah, you're using
so
someone
if,
else's money.
if you move out after 5 years, you only paid for the depreciation during your watch.
Yeah, it's like leasing a car.
So
Yeah.
hypothetically, if you had a debt of 50,000, and you had in any one of the 13 districts, pick whatever the district is, right? It's arbitrary, the number, but So you have 50,000 that you owe, right, on a bond or whatever it is, and you have 100,000 in the fund balance. The 100,000, the 50,000 from the fund balance would pay down the bond that's there, and then that additional 50,000, the surplus, would go toward that
New fund
that district. No, it can't. You can't move it to the new fund balance.
Right, and that's why.
So
you know,
you would
it makes
have
sense
it to go pay down the. So you would
even
hold
if
on
you
one second.
can't-
Hold
even if you-
on one second. Hold on one second. You would use that money then to reduce the tax payment
Right.
for the people in that district.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
mean,
it
once we
works.
establish how many years are left on the bond, we can kind of figure out how much fund balance we want to use to reduce their tax rate for the
Okay.
remaining life of the bond. You know, and then anything else that goes sideways now would be covered through the O&M district.
So to piggyback off that 1 second, do you have a general idea? I don't know if you have the answer, but how much bond do we have out there, and how much general fund do we have out there in the sewers? Ballpark.
Well, I mean,
if you don't,
I mean, well, we don't.
I
Yeah. Oh, wait,
I think, Dan, I think
do-
9 of the districts have
I do.
bonds on them still.
yes.
Or debt,
No, I
I
think
should
8.
say, debt.
Not counting Halleck's Mill, 8. I went through the listing.
So 8 have debt.
Eight have,
So a couple with kind of high debt levels.
I believe there's
What about
Four
the
don't.
fund balance?
all the fund balance. Well, all the fund balances added together. I have the exact number here. Is probably about $4.5 million.
oh, but a good part of that is Halleck's Mill, which is
right.
totally separate.
Halleck's Mill's like $3 million.
Yeah, it's totally
Point
separate.
nine.
We're basically talking about the 11 Peekskill districts here. That's all we're talking about, the 11 Peekskill districts.
You know, so let me give you an example. So if
Actually,
I said,
7 who don't have any bonding.
But I'm saying you have that information.
so we have the Hunterbrook district has about $143,000 worth of fund balance. So as we start to approach the end of the note, or even before that, if there's 5 years left on the bond, you know, we'll just come up with drawing on the fund balance to reduce the tax rate.
As that example, do you have what their bond is?
No, I
Ballpark?
don't have that.
Okay.
I mean, I can tell you that, what I can tell you is,
No, right? It's only for sure.
in that example, we're principal and interest right now, and with these bonds, it's not the same every year, but it's about $170,000 we're paying off.
Okay.
So I think the first order of business is we got to figure out how we want to do it, by water, by however we want to assess,
And
by unit
if
charge.
we do both, how to balance how much you want to, how much
So-
revenue you want to generate from one source versus the other.
So thank you for your presentation. I thought it was very informative. I don't even know how you're doing all of this, because the 30 years of people did not want to touch this. So I appreciate you taking this on head on.
He didn't wanna do it either.
I'll take the rap for that one.
I don't have any further questions. I'm ready for the next step. Thank you.
All right, and then, you know, in the meantime, if board members want to reach out to me, and, you know, Susan, you raised some issues, we'll look into the bonds, how many years are left on them.
I'm not concerned about the bonds. The bonds are what they are.
It's just a question that came up tonight.
Yeah,
So
that
there's
will
a
be
couple
paid
other
off,
things.
and as you say, whether it's, for those in each district is very different. You look at the length of time for the bond. Janelle can certainly plot out each year, let's just say has 5 remaining years. She can plot out what the interest and principal will be, and then you either use all of the money, you use your tax rate with a little bit of fund balance, because you're going to end up with zero. You should end up with close to zero fund balance by taking that last year of your bond payment, which will be, your tax rate will be reduced because the fund balance will be used, and then everything is O&M. And going ahead, I think one of the key issues that Dan said is that DEC looks at the 11 Peekskill districts as one district. And as you remember, we're under this 2019 consent order. And looking forward, we're going to have some expenses in that Peekskill O&M district. And the cost will then be shared by all the 11 districts. And there are roughly 4,179 properties in the 11 districts. and I have the breakdown. And it ranges, one district has 30 properties, and Osceola is the largest, and it has 2,643. This was as of about a year ago, so the numbers may be changed. So there's a wide difference. But all of these, for example, in Halleck's Mill, which is all one district, but has multiple pump stations, if a pump station breaks down in one corner, that might service 40 homes, but the whole district pays for that improvement, right? Even though they have nothing to do with that, and their neighborhood is over here, and they're not serviced by it. But everyone in the district pays, and that will be the concept of this new Peekskill district going forward. And with better accounting, and you've done a lot of work in making sure that everything bought for one of the Peekskill districts is paid for, is identified, so we identify that, and then we have to do a little bit more on the staffing levels, which is just another concern.
Right, and we do, as it stands right now, we don't have a way on payroll to
Yeah,
track
but we
it,
have to work on that.
But yeah,
It's,
so
it's a process. Nothing
No,
is
this is
perfect.
the first step, and
This is the first
straighten it
step,
out.
and I thank you, and I thank your staff for taking it on and frankly putting up with me and with all my emails. All right.
No problem.
But you said that he was also, Dan.
Well, can I please? Thank you, Susan. I know how to run a meeting.
Oh, no, I was
You're-
going to ask
no,
if
please.
Halleck's Mill is
That's
good.
exactly what I'm waiting to
Okay,
do. That's
thank
why I
you.
said we have more to go before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So Dan,
You want to talk about Halleck's Mill?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the pump stations first.
Okay.
Where are we with trying to get that pay in advance from? Geez, I'm drawing a blank now.
EFC?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, so we've
facilities.
been in touch with bond counsel, so I'll be coming to you guys with a resolution to borrow the full amount that was the basis for our grant, which was 7.2 million. Our grant was, I forget, it was about 5.8, thank you. So we got a very good grant, so we want to, get this done. Our 4 pump stations became 5. We kind of did some in-house value engineering because the consultant was completely removing buildings and stuff, which not only adds more expense, it adds complications. to
So
switching
rather
over.
than get ahead, I want to focus on EFC and what we need to, get the loan up front or the loan amount so we could go out with these bids and then or fund the projects per se, but not have to borrow in advance, because if we go through EFC, it's sort of like a credit line.
Exactly.
And it takes away a lot of interest tax liability to our residents. So where are we with that process?
So when the whole situation really, the sewer district's going to have to bankroll sort of would appear like worst case about 1.4 million. So the concern was, how do we float this during construction, because this is a reimbursement grant, so you're going to be paying contractors and you're going to have to float. So EFC, with the financing, we'd be approved for 7.2. My thought is we should never need that. There'll be maybe, if there's a lot going on for 1 month and we don't get paid for 3 months, at least we can pay the contractors. And when the dust settles, we're only going to pay interest on what we borrow. So if we're only borrowing for the float to pay the bills, if we, paying interest on $3 million, if we only need $3 million to keep the cash flowing, then that's all we'll be paying interest on. But we'll have the ability to borrow more should it become necessary.
Very good.
And then in the end, EFC will then, they have a sort of subsidized loan program. So once we're like in their system, so we're already in their system, we're on what's called the intended use plan. They know we want to borrow the money. So what ends up happening is after it's completed, we're basically going to be going from a construction loan to a mortgage. So the long-term financing, once it's complete, will just roll over through EFC.
Are you planning to go to bid on all 4 at the same time, or you haven't thought about that yet?
Well, it's 5 now. One
Why
of them,
are you putting Farm Walk into
yeah,
this?
we threw Farm Walk
Even
in.
though Farm Walk is in Peekskill?
We'll just have to
how you going to deal with that? That's a,
Well, it's not that hard, because we'll know exactly what we spent on it. So we could just do a journal entry to compensate for that.
because the farm walk would be a Peekskill O&M
Right,
cost.
that's an Osceola, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We thought about that.
Well, okay, all right. All right, so you also said that you want to change the plans, that EDR did some preliminary design, some plans for these pump stations, and now you want to change that. So do we have to go back to EDR for
Yes.
getting
Yeah,
the change?
and some of the stuff we're working together with them. We're doing some of the plans in-house as well.
Okay, so the next step would then be to start doing the bonding resolution. Is that the next step that we need?
Well, I need, well, Dan, you gave Janelle the figures, correct?
Yes.
So we can start working on that, but I do need the actual plans too.
So do we have to hire EDR to do revised plans?
Dan just said he's working with them.
Yeah, no, we still have some budget. I'm not sure. They may be looking for a little bit more, but I think the savings will be more than worth it.
Do we have to have a resolution to hire EDR to do this additional
We,
work?
we already have them
We already
hired,
have
and they're still working on the plans that they've been working on. It's not additional, we hired them for these pump stations already.
Yeah, but they did a report, they already did a report on that. Now we're asking them to change the report.
They did a report. They didn't prepare bid documents.
So if we're asking them now to change the plans, do we have to pay them more money, is what I'm asking?
I suspect they're going to ask, so.
Ask for more money.
Right. We'll cross that bridge. I had a conversation with Dan to speak to Bob about that. I wasn't thrilled with the fact that they just said replace everything. It's not the way to go. They should have had a conversation with Dan on the quality of the buildings. So let's see what they come back with. And Dan has been doing the plans himself to submit through. So
Some of them.
But let's let EDR say we need more money, and then we could go for a resolution on that. I'm not going to pass a resolution saying, "Oh, we're going to give you a blanket amount of money."
No, I'm just asking if they're gonna ask for
I'm
more
sure-
money.
yeah, I'm
I think
sure they will.
be. I would.
Phil dealt with that already with someone today, that they wanted more for engineering for something, and it wasn't warranted. So
Yeah, I mean, it would be one for a general plan, and then once we actually start get to the point where we know we're going to borrow the money and have the bonding resolution, then it's actually more detailed plans. That's a whole nother step. Okay.
Well, no, remember, when you're doing these projects, you need a reasonable estimate to authorize the money.
Yeah.
You don't need complete design drawings.
And that's what they have to do first. Okay.
all right, Dan, and I think we were talking about Halleck's Mills and breaking that up into a couple of smaller chunks for the
Right.
additions. How are we doing on that?
Well, we were hoping to get some grant money, which hasn't happened.
Well, right now we're looking at 12.4, I think,
So,
or 12.5.
so this is what we originally were looking at. We were looking at the 315 parcels, and the original estimate was 14.3, which we don't believe to be correct anymore. It's probably somewhere north of 20 million now, because this estimate was, and just to recap, we got the $10 million from EFC. Let me jump to the next one. So now, all right, so that's kind of a newer number. So 20,300. Still have the 10 million, the 1.2 from Mondier Jones. So we would have to bond 9.7 million.
What about, didn't we get another 1.2 from Mike Lawler?
I've had put calls into Lawler's office. I'm trying to find out what the status of both of those appropriations were, both from Jones and Lawler from 2024. Whether they're still active and the money is still there. I haven't gotten a response
It is active.
yet.
They're trying, on the Lawler side, they're trying to find out, because I don't think we got much from Jones when it was.
We got 1.2 from Jones.
No, I mean, we didn't get much in paperwork. So we're trying to figure out.
Well,
where they
okay,
are with that.
I've asked Lawler's office. You have to clarify that.
Yeah, so at this budget amount, using that sort of unit methodology I talked about earlier about the frontage and area and all that. With typical property being 2 units, we're at $1,800 per property, which is going to be
Too much.
problematic.
Never
to
gonna go.
put it mildly. You know, and just to so if we got, well, this was, you know, this would be if we got another grant. Just want to get you to some maps here. So just to recap, that was the Birch area, which was part of the 315. Then we had the Junior Lake portion. And then we had, what's that, Sunrise Street? So those are the 3 areas we were looking to serve. Now, what we did, we actually put in a grant application, because we were doing a grant application, we said, let's just go for the whole ball of wax. This thing originally started at over 600 parcels. So if we're going for a grant, let's go for the whole ball of wax. So we did submit for that, and we were not funded in the last round. So we're sort of at a crossroads now. We're, you know, try and just run with what we've got and trim up the district.
So our last conversation, Dan, I asked you to look at what would be the most amount of homes we could reach at a best value, meaning stuff that's probably gravity fed versus pumps, and not as much linear footage of sewer pipe in front. So some of the probably smaller lots heading downhill, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, one of the areas that could go either way, depending upon DEC, is the Sparkle Lake area. There's kind of like a ridge that runs right through it. So some cuts toward, some of the properties cut toward Hyatt Street, and some cut to the wetlands in the back. So in the previous plan, they didn't recognize that we own some property and have access down toward the lake where we have a sewer line. So there's a number of properties we could pick up by gravity that are on that side of the ridge. So one of the proposals, which I didn't much care for, was putting multiple pump stations at the end of each street, which would be cost prohibitive. But one of the things that's worth exploring is if DEC will allow it to sort of skirt the edge of the state wetlands, because that would pick up the other side. And then I think we would need one easement to go through somebody's property, but that we would then be able to achieve this without pumping.
And they would be sewered on that property, I assume. They'd be gaining the sewer. All right.
Wow.
And how many homes in that area?
I think that was about 50, if I recall. I don't know if we saw on one of the slides.
So you're saying in the Sparkle Lake area, half would go into the wetlands and half would go in roughly, and half would go down towards
You know, driven by the topography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, if we have the 10 million plus, let's just say roughly 2 million from federal, so for the
2.4.
12 million plus whatever you feel comfortable going to the state controller with in terms of what is reasonable, and I don't have that number, $700, $800, $900, whatever it is, for the rest. Can you tell us if that's what you're thinking is the logical thing for Sparkle Lake, which is one of the problem areas, the smallest lots, what that would cost for the linear feet, splitting, half going each way, what that would cost? And if you don't have, a lot of Sparkle Lake needed the low pressure pumps, the old design. If you split it left and right, that's going to eliminate, I assume, the low pressure.
Yeah, I'd like to eliminate those if possible.
So could you estimate, based on the linear feet that you have already, plus if you know where the ridge line is, what that estimated cost would be based on current construction figures?
Ultimately, that's what we have to do.
That's
we have to have the defendable estimate, and we have to do a new map plan and report to describe how that cost estimate was developed, to make sure it's defendable, describe a methodology for taxing the folks. And, you know, the issue is going to become, You know, the Albany kind of doesn't like to see sewer districts costing people more than $1,000 a year. So, you know, I think we need to target that. And then the flip side of it is the procedure for, so if we get to, you know, what we're talking about, then the part two of this is whether we want to chase down people with petitions or just have the town board do it on their motion. And it's subject to permissive referendum and just follow through that process.
I think the fastest way to do it is by the resolution, but we're not at that point yet. We're at the point is you have to know how many homes, whatever Sparkle Lake would cost, and then could you add Sunrise, which is like
Well,
20-something
Susan,
streets.
I'm sorry, since we're probably, as someone just pointed out, probably in the work session area. And I just asked Dan for an update so we could see where we're at.
Could we have that by next week? For the
Susan,
Hallett's Mill?
Susan, thank you.
They've been waiting for years.
I understand they've been waiting for years, but I want some answers out of EFC, and I want to make sure that we're able to get where we need to. Did you contact DEC, Dan, just out of curiosity about the possibility of running into there?
No.
Let's start an initial on that. Get a contact. I know you know some people there.
Yeah, we would have to get the wetlands flagged.
Yeah.
And get them, meet with them, flag them, and.
Let's make sure that they'll even let us get there first before we start getting everyone's hopes up on the solution there. Thank you. Tomorrow we'll sit down a little more and recap on this.
Again, Dan, great job.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. At this time, we will open the floor to public comment. Please remember, it's 3 minutes per speaker, but you do not have to wait for courtesy of the floor. You can contact us at our office. I've had many phone calls this week. You can come by. Every member of the town board is reachable through email, telephone, all on the town website. So please feel free to reach out.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for all your hard work. Believe me, I know what it's like. But I would like, Alon Gilbert, former town supervisor. Two questions that just came to mind listening to that last presentation. One is, I remember when we were doing our plan during my term, we did consider that that proposal of splitting those houses and going towards the wetlands. We didn't get approval at that time. We didn't seek or get approval because we also needed to get consent of the homeowners in order to utilize their properties, to go through their properties. You might be able to do that through absolute, the need, and you might be able to prove that in court, but I don't know whether or not you'd try to get consent first. Secondly, I don't know the answer to this, and maybe the town attorney can tell me, but when you're discussing the different rates in that consolidation question, if you utilize property tax for a portion of it, or if not all of it, you may run into problems with the 2% tax cap. I don't know if that would be excluded. It's possible, but if you do run it through the property tax, you may run into that problem going forward. So just things to consider. That's all.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Larry Killian, Yorktown Heights.
Hi, Larry.
Hello. I know, Ed, you passionately believe that 485B is the best thing since sliced bread. I don't want to date myself there. But that passion seems to be coloring the presentation of the facts. So let's look at some examples. In the case of BJ's Gas, a few weeks ago you said the tax break brought in over 200 jobs at BJ's and at the Staples Mall. That's not true. The jobs were there before the tax break. At the last meeting, you revised that to 15 jobs at the gas station. However, the town board approved the rezoning of BJ's Gas in 2014, years before the tax break. All of the jobs and infrastructure came in without the tax break because it was a financial bonanza for both BJ's and the mall owner. The relocation of Uncle Giuseppe's was also done without the 485B incentive because also for them it was a financial bonanza for both Uncle G's and the mall owner. It's actually an example of why we don't need the tax break, because we can have very robust development without offering a tax break. I love Uncle G's chocolates, as they were displayed deliciously on the newspaper on Sunday. But Uncle G's has not brought in a dime in new tax revenue, which I said at the last town board meeting, but is contrary to Ed to what you stated in the newspaper article. So which is true? And to follow up on Susan's comments about having both a tax cert and a tax break, that's a very important problem. And you might remember that I discussed that at some length at the February meeting. The largest example of that is the Lowe's property, which has the tax break and a large pending tax cert. So we need yesterday a comprehensive review of 45B because it's raising our property taxes. The law allows us to revise it to target certain businesses and areas to stop this ongoing loss of tax dollars. So I would ask each board member to weigh in. What is your position about revising or looking at 485B? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Good evening, Jay Copstein. I have two comments this evening. Last year, the board instituted a moratorium on large-scale solar arrays while a new solar law was being drafted. Although I, like Council Members Esposito and Siegel, am opposed to large-scale ground-mounted solar arrays in residentially zoned areas, I also understand the need for consensus on the board. The two current solar developers before the planning board signed legally binding waivers in the understanding that their applications would be processed with the acknowledgement that they would be bound by the provisions of the new law. At the last town board meeting, where the draft's new solar law was discussed, a board member requested an amendment to allow the two projects being processed under the waiver to be exempted from the new law and be allowed to proceed under the old law. Granting this exemption is an unnecessary, unwarranted, and illogical gift to the developers at the expense of the residents of the town. My second comment, and with this, Mr. Supervisor, if I get out of line, just shut me down. During the courtesy of the floor at the last board meeting, Mr. Hickens, the Democrat candidate for the town board, made a comment that I find particularly offensive. I regularly speak at town board and planning board meetings. Dan Strauss, Larry Killian, Sarah Wilson, Ken Balfour, Howard Gold, Anthony Bissett, and others regularly speak at town board meetings. At these meetings we are heard, and in many cases our comments are taken into consideration. We do not represent the negatively connotated special interest groups as mentioned by Mr. Hickens, nor are we running for public office. Mr. Hickens, you are running for political office, and you do represent a particular special interest group, and your negative comments are not appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Hi, Sarah.
Good evening, Sarah Wilson, Yorktown Heights.
Food banks across the country, already strained by rising demand, are reporting that they will have less food to distribute to local feeding programs because of at least $1.5 billion in federal funding cuts and pauses by the Trump administration, as it has been widely reported and confirmed by the USDA. Hunger in the U.S. has increased in recent years with rising inflation and the end of pandemic-era food programs. The current administration has voted to lower inflation by cutting back on government spending. In early March, the USDA said it was cutting more than $1 billion in funding from the Local Food for Schools Cooperative Agreement and the Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement programs for 2025. That money was designated to pay farmers to provide food to schools and food banks, give a boost to local producers while giving fresh food options to children and communities. Then, food banks were hit with another blow when they were informed last week that scheduled deliveries of food through the USDA's The Emergency Food Assistance Program, TFAP, were being halted or cut back. TFAP is one of the agency's core nutrition programs that buys food from farmers and sends it to food pantries. USDA is reviewing the program and has currently paused half of the TFAP funding, $500 million, sourced from the Commodity Credit Corporation, a farm support program that was created in 1933 as part of FDR's New Deal. The cancellation and pauses of these programs mean our local food banks will offer less produce, meat, and other staples in the coming weeks and months, leaving scarcer and less healthy food for our community members who are reliant on food pantries. Here in Yorktown, we can do our part to help by donating directly to our Yorktown food pantries and by supporting the Garden of Hope at Willow Park at the corner of Curry Street and Tulip Drive, which is a volunteer-run, regenerative community garden growing fresh organic produce exclusively for our food pantries. Our fences have been reinforced thanks to the Yorktown Parks and Rec Department. We are preparing the beds for planting and have already planted snow peas, kale, and Swiss chard. We have garden work days every Saturday between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. Much help is needed to offset the impacts of these federal funding cuts. Let's come together to help one another address this most basic need, addressing hunger. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Dan Strauss, 59-year resident. I moved it up a year now. I've got two questions. First off, what's the difference between putting an addition on your house and an ADU? What happened to the grant? I think it was $1 million to redo the paving right downtown Yorktown, Downing Drive in that area. I remember that was like about a year and a half or 2 years ago that grant was put through, and I don't see the results of it. As I've said before, there should be no large-scale ground-mounted solar project in residential zones. It is a commercial use in a residential zone. It can't be clearer, but it was never clear 3 years ago when the two projects that went through in Jefferson Valley and down on Foothill, they went through because the planning board said they had no choice. There should be no grandfathering of the two projects that are in existence on the drawing board right now. No grandfathering, period. They knew the rules, and if the rules change, they either play by them or they withdraw their application. Yorktown Green, I mentioned 2 weeks ago, the place was full of garbage, and lo and behold, 2 days later, someone came and cleaned it up. I guess they must have heard Dan talking. But it's still a disgrace, cars park illegally in the fire zones, jeopardizing people's lives every day, and nobody does a thing about it. And now I understand that the lights at night, either all of them or some of them, do not work. So please, I will keep saying it over and over, and it's not just Yorktown Green. People should be not parking in fire zones where it says no standing, no parking, because people's lives are being jeopardized every time they do it. And they conduct business in those fire zones, and you know that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam.
Good evening, Town Board. I'm Howard Gould.
Howard?
I've been here 25 years as a resident, and as you know, hopefully I'm getting better at giving these little speeches. I used to bring up at the beginning civility, freedom of speech, while bringing it up now. It's in our Constitution, and hopefully for many, many more years it will still be. I was very disappointed our last meeting, and I'm kind of continuing what my friend Jay Kofstein was talking about. I'm not going to shout out a name. I'm not going to bring it into a negative situation because I like to let the sun shine. So I want to bring it from my positive point of view. Not that Jay Kofstein didn't, but I believe in the freedom of speech, first of all. Like I said to Luciana that time, continue asking questions because this is who we are. This is how we learn. Once we start saying to each other that we don't have the freedom of speech to speak to whoever we like to speak to, who we feel comfortable speaking to, we already violated the Constitution right then and there. And like our good, respected friend supervisor, Tom Diana would say, this is, I believe, something to the effect, this is politics 101, and that freedom of speech is important. And I'm losing my train of thought, but I probably need some mint cookies, Susan. Or maybe I should I should start needle pointing, because it'll help me relax, but I'm going to stay on point. How dare somebody say you cannot speak to someone else? I think that is wrong, because I got to give credit to the town board. And it's not only me, because like I spoke to you, Sergio, it's not only me, but the way you reach out to people in this community. You make it not only as residents, but family, friends. And I believe, and I can't speak for others, but I'm sure there are other people in the community that feel this way. And we should not take away from that. Please do not be yourselves. Keep reaching out, because I'm going to keep reaching out to people. And if I was in your position, I would do the same. Look how, I don't want to bring federal into this, but there are presidents that reach out to former presidents, so let's keep things positive. Thank you.
Absolutely. Perfect, right? You nailed it.
All right, Randy.
Good evening, Randy Pratt, Wilkins Fruit Farm, Yorktown Heights.
Hey, Randy.
Hi. It came to my attention today that there was some discussion about grandfathering on the solar law. I don't know how we could even think about that when 6 months ago you spent a lot of time, both you, the board, the town attorney, working on the clause on how those applicants who were about to file or in file, that they would be subject to the new law, and they all signed agreements to that effect. So for even to think about it, I think is the wrong way to go in this law. Also, one of the applicants has always been saying at most of the hearings that, you know, we have to put it here because there's not enough space in the commercial areas to put it. But I don't know how we can say that because we haven't filled up all the commercial spots where we could put solar panels. And originally, the first statute that was put together in town had a priority list where residential was last. So we haven't filled any of those other areas first. So I hope when we finally finish this new solar law, one, there won't be any grandfathering, and that residential will be the absolute last until we've filled all of the other spaces with the solar panels. Okay? I'd like to raise an issue about parking in fire zones too. I have a habit of calling people out on it, and I called a person out in front of Empire Bagel the other day. Happened to be a person in uniform. You know, they're working at Camp Smith as part of the help with the prisons, so they order a very big order from Empire Bagel in the morning, but they park right in front of the front door. So I told her, I said, look, that's the fire zone. I don't care. I said, well, I do. I work with EMS, and that could be a problem. But, you know, it's all over town. I mean, you sit and slice and have a pizza, you can watch, you know, 5 cars go in and park in handicap zones. And they park there, don't have tickets, but nobody seems to do anything about it. So hopefully someday we can get that under control. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Randy.
Good evening, Jan Mirchandani, Yorktown Heights. I'm going to just echo, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but I also agree about the grandfathering. I remember a very lengthy meeting, and the applicants agreed, and it was, you know, it's in the public record. I think to go backwards on that just sort of defies logic. Also, to piggyback on wherever Sarah is, in case folks don't know, anybody who is on WIC or SNAP, those vouchers can be used at farmers markets, and you can go to FSW to find out more about which farmers markets accepts those. So I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that if they were not already. And then also we had a lot of announcements this morning. I just want to call attention. The Hudson Valley Gateway Chamber, which also represents the Yorktown businesses, has got their Spring Festival coming up on the 26th. It's a great way to support. Those are local businesses. Those are not big box stores. Those are, you know, your mom and pop shops, your neighbors, and a lot of nonprofits too. So I encourage people to come out. And then lastly, I want to echo your comments and thank Pete Harcum for the tour for the vets for the Vietnam Veterans Recognition Day the other day. I had a conversation with one of the vets when he came back afterwards, and he said it was the nicest homecoming that he's ever had, and it was really actually quite touching. And the ceremony that the town had also over the weekend was lovely, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right, anyone else for courtesy of the floor? You guys got off easy.
Motion.
No, you want to have him
Second.
since you know.
Well, let's finish up, and then I have a motion. I have a second. Patrick and Sergio, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Would you mind if I address the grandfathering, because I'm the one that brought that one up?
Now, you know what? You could address if you think you need more than this, and I'll address it real quick. When we're sitting at the table and trying to be transparent, ideas come up. May or may not be great ideas, but we still owe it to explore it. We owe it to everyone. I think that there are some differing opinions, and majority rules will be there, and people will talk to each other, and you know, like we have one-on-one conversations all the time to try to bounce ideas. Just because it was brought up doesn't mean it's a done deal. Doesn't mean it's even being considered anymore. But you know, we need to be able to express ourselves freely and transparently for the public. I don't know if you need to put anything past that.
Yeah, no, I just want to name that as much as it's been toyed with and talked about, it's a bit layered for me. So I just want to be very clear that I'm heard into what the layers are. I am against ground mount large scales in residential. However, I'm not saying that the people that are above us should go back to the old law. They may have to follow the new law, which may mean, I guess, where's Randy, that the project doesn't fit now the specs, right? But I don't like the idea of someone taking their land, developing it, doing all the things for planning, understanding that rules will change. They should accept now the rules will change, which could also kibosh the entire project because their project might not fit there. But I feel like we're all hardworking humans and it's our land. And at some point, they invested in it. So for me, I'm against moving forward in ground mount, massive, in residential period.
I don't think it's appropriate to talk about where you feel right now.
Okay, but I'm just saying, there's been 4 times that we've brought this grandfathering, but I do think that they should be grandfathered, held accountable to the new law, and yet we should consider the fact that they did make an investment in the land.
Yep. All right. So I'd like to ask whichever one of the gentlemen from the Mohegan Fire District to just come up. Anyone in the fire district may have noticed with their tax bills that there's been an increase in taxing. I assumed we would have gotten a question here today, although we did get something sent in, and Mohegan was part of it. So this was from Dave Milstein. Unfortunately, due to medical issues, he could not be at the town board meeting tonight for courtesy of floor, but he wanted this read on the record. A lot of people bash first responders for whatever reason. I would like to thank all of the first responders from whatever town or mutual aid that responded to the structure file in Jefferson Village Condo 9 from last week. Last Friday afternoon, we had a structure fire there. It was pretty bad, but fortunately, because of the work of Mohegan Fire, and actually when I was there, I think I saw 4 or 5 different mutual aid companies that came out there. They were able to get the fire under control. It stayed to one structure of 4 units. It could have spread to a couple that were pretty close by, so some excellent work by the teams there. And then there was also a gentleman whose life was saved due to the quick thinking of the mailman, another resident, and a gentleman who owns a landscaping company that does work at the Jefferson Village. They will all be recognized at an upcoming town board meeting, but he wanted to sort of get that on the record.
Tell him at a high level what happened, how he used his truck, you know.
So the mailman in the area, Chris, saw the fire, tried to go to the front door. The front door was engulfed in flames. Thought quickly, drove around to the back of the building where there was a terrace on the 2nd floor. He had to actually go up on the roof of the car and then the terrace, and he was joined by one of the other residents with a great name. His name is Ed. And he and Ed were able to bring the gentleman out, and he was actually resistant. You never know how people react in a stressful situation and a trauma. And they were able to get him down, and Renee was able to help get him off the truck and away to safety. So just some great work, some heroic people.
Neighbors, you know?
Yeah, neighbors and people who care about the community. The mailman, the guy who does landscaping, just they are part of the community there. Everyone knew who Chris was. Everyone knew who Renee was. So it was really nice to see. Not the way you want to spend a Friday afternoon, but seeing everyone together, seeing the mutual aid working, seeing all, our PD was there for support because it's really a fire scene. It was just really encouraging, and that's great. So, but one of the things that talking with the fire department, because I must admit I was so immersed in my own budget, I didn't take a hard look at theirs because we have no control over it. We're just a collection agency for the fire. It's similar to the school district. We just take the money in. So they had to go up this year for some certain reasons. Who wants to come up and talk? Anthony, I like that. So
delegates the war. That's how it works.
There you
Delegates.
go. Introduce yourself, Brian.
Brian D., Sherbrooke resident. I've lived in town over 50 years.
And you're also
I'm a fire commissioner in the Lake Mohegan Fire District.
Okay. So the reality of the situation is you guys needed to budget more money, which brought up everything. And I know there's some certain reasons, but why don't you just hit through a few of them?
So a few of the reasons are in order for us to maintain a level of service that we have, because you have to remember that we're a combination department. We have volunteers and we have career staff. So we have to take care of our residents in a full manner. We do cover 44 square miles in the district, so it's a big area. There's many different aspects that you have to spend money on. You have to spend money on training, you have to spend money on equipment, you have to spend money on health insurance, compensation insurance. All those things have gone up over the past couple of years, as everybody else knows. Electric, fuel, just heating your home is more expensive, and it's the same for us. And for a lot of years, the tax stayed kind of flat. Didn't really do much of an increase. The last 2 years, we had to do things. A couple of things we had to do is we had to buy 2 new trucks. Equipment like that, an engine runs about $1.5 million each. It has gone up. It takes 3 years to get it. So what we planned into our budget was to take the money and put it aside. So when the 3 years comes, we're going to have enough money to buy it flat out and not have to loan it and pay interest payments for 11 years. So if we can afford to do this and make this happen, we're actually going to save a lot of money. And we won't have to keep doing this every couple of years and hopefully be able to maintain it. We had to hire, because of the call volume, because of all the stuff that goes on within the 2 towns, Yorktown and Cortland, there's so much progression in the past 8 or 9 years. You guys know all the building that's gone on and all the people that have moved to the area and all the stuff that comes into town. The accidents are more, the fire calls are more, the EMS calls are more. And we have trained EMTs on every truck. So every time a fire truck goes out, it goes to an EMS call, and we're there probably 5 minutes or less at most of the EMS calls. And you need that when you can't breathe or you're having a heart attack or you're bleeding or your leg is broken. And you need that. You need those people that respond who know what they're doing. And the volunteer ambulance corps are fantastic. Mohegan stepped up so much in the last few months, it's unbelievable. But they even had to go out and hire a full-time staff because you just don't have the volunteers available with the way everybody has to work nowadays. So we did the same. We saw that our call volume in our Furnace Woods is humongous. It's almost as much as our headquarters. So we had to add another person per shift. So we had to hire 4 more employees because we have 4 shifts. So with that came an increase in the budget. We had to train them, we had to get equipment for them, and then we have to pay them and take care of them with the health care and so on. So we really have an option here now where hopefully when you guys start seeing these new projects come in, like what you want to put over in Jefferson Valley and in Mohegan, you've got 3 more developments right there that we know about. And maybe we can ask them to give back to us, to help us maybe buy new equipment. We have other things, smaller trucks. Our rescue is getting old too. We're probably going to have to replace that soon. There's a lot of stuff coming because these trucks get used all the time. And we had 4,600 calls that we responded to last year. I mean, that's in a small city. That's what you get. I mean, we have a lot of calls, and we need to be able to maintain our quality. We don't want to fall behind and have somebody end up in a bad situation. When they call us, it's their worst moment, and we got to be there for them. Yeah, and we have to give back probably about $300,000 to the company that owned the mall because they went bankrupt.
Yep.
You didn't save for that. That money that they gave us got used into the budget.
Absolutely.
So we have to build that back in and give that back this year. So that was a whole other thing because the Jefferson Valley Mall, previous owners, not the current owners,
I know.
when they filed, when they still owned it, their state that they filed in says that we have to give them back tax money. And that's something
State
that
of
we had to build.
Texas.
Yeah. So it's kind of scary what people can do from so far away. We have to, there's a lot that goes on. And, we had budget meetings, we had all kinds of stuff, and we made it all available to the public. And I sat at the budget meeting before we voted on it for over an hour. Not one person walked in. We got not one letter. Nobody called, nothing. So we just figured we were doing the right thing for the people, and that's what we did.
Well, I think you are. I just think there's a little sticker shock, which, is going to be there. I think, though, that, look, I take nothing away from the volunteers because I know actually a lot of our volunteers are actually paid firefighters also that continue to.
They turn into it later on, but we need volunteers. There's no question.
No, absolutely. But there's a certain training that a firefighter goes through the academy and everything they need to do that definitely has a value.
Well, the hours of training at the academy aren't just for the firefighters. The volunteers go down too, and there's training for that. And the state has put in mandates for the training that we have to do, and that's why people don't volunteer as much because the training hours really cut into your personal life, and it's very difficult to be able to have a personal life, a job, be a volunteer, respond to calls. There's a lot of hours that you like, and there really isn't a lot to give at the end, And the one thing that they do have is they have a LOSAP program. So after they do their 30 years of service, they can get a little something back, and we as a fire department pay into that for them. We pay in as a district for the volunteer association, so they'll have something at the end. So some of our money goes to that.
What's just as an aside, Westchester County just adopted a a law from the state that gives volunteer first responders for EMS and firefighters a tax break.
Correct. But a lot of these people that we have
Just pay attention to that, you know?
are kids that live at home, or they're
No,
rental
I
units,
understand.
so they don't get anything.
It's
on
a
that
it's
tax
a little
break.
something, you
It's
know,
at least something
for a
the
lot
guys
of
that do.
work
I mean,
that
yeah,
you do. I know.
I have my daughter and her fiance live in town, and they're both volunteers. My son's a career firefighter, so I see both sides of it. You know, I'm all in for both sides. They have to be working together, and the training is a big part of it. And getting something like that is really nice to have. You know, and there's a lot to this whole thing, and you know, the more people that know, the better it is for everybody. I mean, a lot of smaller towns don't have what we have. We have a fantastic setup over there. We have some great people, and I like to keep them all happy and safe.
We appreciate it. We appreciate the job
Thank
you
you,
guys
sir.
do. You know, running into instead of out of. That's
All the time. That fire over there on Friday was amazing. You
Yep.
know, we had total response. Yorktown came as a mutual aid, and we had Somers there as mutual aid. Mayapack Falls was there as mutual aid.
Peekskill was
Peekskill
there.
came up as mutual aid. We had EMS from Peekskill. We had EMS from Yorktown.
I think I saw Mount Kisco too.
I don't know. I didn't hear their call come over, but it's possible.
But I thought I saw at least a fly car or something from
Possible.
Kisco.
I mean, everybody came around because it was a big call, and we could hear it. There was a lot of flame, and you could see the pictures that are online. It was a tough fire.
I was there.
We had a guy climb up on the roof and cut the roof and stop the fire from spreading, and that building might be repairable at some point. You might not have to tear
Wow.
the whole thing down. So they did a really good job. We got some fantastic guys, and the training goes a long way. When they know what to do when they get there,
Yep.
it really helps. There's no guesswork. Everything's there. No guesswork.
Well, thank you for your time and the explanation. I sent you that email, so look out for. Oh, actually, I sent it to them.
Yeah.
Again, Brian, you guys do a great job.
Thanks.
Honestly.
Just doing our best for
I
everybody.
know. That's what the town's made of.
Yep. We got
Gentlemen,
good
thank you
people.
for your time.
Thank
We're
you.
grateful. Thank you.
All right, so let's see. I'll hit a couple things. Lonnie, they did do the consent. I don't know if they need to, or we would go through consent. I don't think we should take eminent domain for the property. And the sewer district is an independent district and would not interfere with our tax cap per se. Larry, you know, I guess the main difference that we see in it is you look at the 45B as a tax break, and New York and myself look at the 45 as a tax incentive. BJ's Mall, some of the buildings did take advantage of it. They bring jobs. My point was that BJ's alone as a mall that whole mall has brought in over 200 jobs to Yorktown. And then when you questioned me about the gas station, I said probably about 15, 16 employees on the light side. That's a very low estimate, but they probably have more because of the length of their shifts. I did not read the newspaper, so I don't know exactly how I was quoted on that. I don't subscribe to the Journal News, but someone said they're going to get it to me. But once again, you know, it incentivizes people to come here. We're not losing taxes; we're actually gaining tax. For every 485B, we're gaining half of the new tax the first year and moving on. And I once again will stress that it is more than just that tax dollar. It's jobs in our community. It's people that could work. I was just in Michael's the other day. They have their soft opening. They're doing their grand opening on the 12th. I saw about 20 employees. Now, granted, they probably won't keep 20 employees over the, you know, per shift. It'll narrow down a little bit. But those are jobs in our community. Those are jobs for the people who live here that contribute, that need that for whether it's food, whether it's rent, contributing to their family. It could be a stay-at-home mom doing some hours while the kids are at school. These are intangibles that really need to be considered with these jobs coming in. And yes, we need to look at it. I know we spoke about it says at least every 10 years, and we're trying to put together. I know one gentleman had passed from what was there, another moved out, but I'm trying to put together a similar board that we had for the 45B incentive board and get that together. And if there are any business owners out there, I think the gentleman who passed away was in commercial real estate for malls in particular. If anyone has an expertise in that, I really could use that. And the other gentleman was vice president of a bank who moved out of the area. But we want to get people who really live and breathe in that. And that gives me an idea, so I'll follow up on that tomorrow. Sorry. All right. So we'll keep going at this, and I'll also challenge the fact that this does not raise our property tax. Once again, we're getting half of that money first, so that we wouldn't have gotten once they do this renovation work. So, and then that goes up from there. So it's actually adding funds into the tax levy. So it's lowering everyone else's taxes. It, you know, everyone looks out a different window, and we see it in different ways. And as a business owner, that's how I see it. And then sitting in municipal government, you know, and understanding that tax levy, I feel that anything that contributes into it brings, even if it comes down $3-4, you know what, it's overall it's great for each individual taxpayer. Jay, I already spoke about the fact that exemptions was just discussion. And, you know, I'll just say, and I will continue to say, I will listen to everyone who comes up to the podium, and I will, you know, it's unfortunate when things are thrown out, and it's not just by people running for office. There are people who just have, you know, opposing views and don't really think about the words that are coming out of their mouth sometimes. And it's a shame. It really is, because I don't think any one of us sitting up here or anyone that's running for this office is saying, gee, what can I do to be malicious to my town? That's not what we're doing. We're here to make a difference in the community we live in. And sometimes it's, you know, it's bad enough the stress you put on your family. Then when they listen to that stuff from everyone, you know, Sergio and Luciana have young kids. To hear comments that are just throwaway comments that are just so off the, you know, off color. It's a shame. It's what makes people run away from this versus run for office. So we're there. Sarah, the food banks, have we had a meeting of the Food Insecurity Task Force? Because you're a part of that, correct? I'm not. Oh, you're not?
I am on the board of the Community Food Pantry in Mohegan Lake.
Okay.
I'm the liaison, we haven't yet.
All right, so yeah, talk to the two leaders there, and let's see what we could do and come up with a game plan. And let me see if I could get both Mike and George in, because you know, even though George isn't our congressman, he's very supportive. And one of the great things about talking and listening to everyone and working across the aisle, I have a great relationship with both of them, and they both care about our community. And George will still be, you know, Westchester is Westchester to him, even though it's not his territory.
And I'll give you a contact for Feeding Westchester.
Okay. Dan, you asked ADU versus extension on a house. The ADU is supposed to be like a mother-daughter type thing, I believe, more than that. Sometimes it is an extension. Sometimes people have put something on their house and they want to do that, but that'll be more defined in the law as we look through that. Paving on Commerce with $1 million. I think you might mean the streetscaping that we want to do. So the $1 million is parked right now, and Dan is supposed to be. Oh, not Dan. I'm sorry. John Tegeter was reaching out to bring in a surveyor, so because we need to get the proper plans for that. That's one thing that never happened. So I asked him last summer, but we ran out of time with the winter in. So they're supposed to. He's been reaching out to a surveyor to get everything surveyed, and we could get that plotted, engineered. Believe it or not, it's a lot harder than just doing sidewalks because of drop-offs and ramps down, and there's a whole host of issues that need to be engineered properly. But that is definitely something that I would like to get moving this year and have that taken care of, because I'd like to take my dog back downtown and not trip on the sidewalks.
Just for everybody's edification, that's Downing.
Yeah.
Is what we're
Oh,
talking
what did I
about.
say? Oh, I said Commerce. I'm sorry, Downing. I was writing and didn't remember.
It's all right.
And then, well, I did speak with Darlene, who does the work at the Yorktown Green. I know they were, she said they were doing their spring cleanup, so I'm glad that they got in there. And it's unfortunate. And those of you listening, please, there are garbage cans all over the place. You keep something in your car until you get home. Why people feel the need to throw stuff out of their car is it's horrible. And I do the same thing you do, Randy, on stuff like that. I call people out on it all the time. The other day, someone was parked illegally in front of Dunkin' Donuts, and I had my town jacket on, so I stood behind the car like I was writing a ticket. And they came running out. No. I said, next time, this could be a police officer writing a ticket. But our police officers do write tickets. Unfortunately, being a town the size that we are, they can't be everywhere unless we increase their budget quite a bit of money. I know the chief might like that, but we're not White Plains where we could have our own traffic patrol. But I have spoken with Officer Rohr, who's one of our traffic safety officers, about this often, and he's shown me his book. They do write the tickets, and they're doing what they need to do. It's just that it's so rampant. It's sad. I can understand maybe in the freezing cold, but the other day it was gorgeous. It's like I parked in the back of the lot to walk over to Dunkin' Donuts and grab an iced tea. I don't know. It's the society we've become. Hopefully that changes, and we'll keep writing tickets, and hopefully they'll get there. Howard, thank you for your comments, and yes, we all swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, so we will definitely make sure we do that. Thank you. And then Jan, it was great with the Vietnam veterans. I still remember the couple of years ago there was two vets who couldn't get on the bus, and I drove them up and walked out with a gentleman who was in his 70s crying because of how he felt just being there and being recognized. And actually I'm going to have the privilege of being his guardian on the honor flight this May, the same veteran, which he has no idea what he's in for with that. That's going to be amazing. So it was wonderful. I'm glad you made some friends there. So, all right, that's pretty much it.
Someone had mentioned streetlights.
Was it the streetlights or was it the lights at the green?
Was it the lights?
Oh,
at
the lights
green,
at the
or was
green.
it streetlights?
Yeah.
The streetlights across the street.
No, lights at the green.
It was
That's
at
what
the
you-
Yorktown Green, yeah.
And I do every time I go down at night and see that, I call. And one time, actually, while I was on the phone with Darlene, they went on because as soon as she gets word that there's a problem, they send the electrician over. I don't know why, but they've had problems where the timer blows.
Is it the junction box or something?
I don't. She hasn't told me.
We have the same problem with 5 streetlights in front of Railroad Park.
Oh, interesting. So maybe they're-
Perennially, because it's direct burial cable, and the slightest anything causes them to go out.
Like an Amazon truck going right could
Right.
make it go
So,
out?
for instance, right now, rather than continuing to address it 5 times that I've done in the last 5 years, every time there's a festival, making sure the lights are working. That being said, right now we are going to dig it all up and replace it in conduit, not a direct burial, a little skinny wire.
Yeah.
That, somebody sticks
Why wouldn't they put a pipe in it?
Well,
God only knows.
That lot was built a long time ago.
Yep.
Years ago.
So, but that's in the works.
All right, good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
And so I guess they're probably having a conduit issue. Well, Dave, why don't you talk to management over there? And let them,
I don't know. They could perhaps be having the same thing, but we did have that Verizon issue right across the street from there twice when town phones went out.
Same thing?
Yeah.
No pipe for,
Well,
the
there's
wires are naked?
correct.
Thank you, Dave. All right, thank you for bringing that up. Susan, do you have any?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. Lanny, thank you for your comments on the Sparkle Lake and that wetlands issue, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. I'd like to get your experience so we don't reinvent the wheel in terms of looking, at that wetland thing. In terms of your issue in the tax cap, that's complicated because right now, these taxes that each of those 11 sewer districts pay does get figured into the tax cap, but all of those districts pay one of their expense items is called a transfer to YS. All right, that kind of expense will be eliminated, so those taxes will go down. So we really don't have a picture yet of what the total tax cap implication would be. But one of the problems that I think this town has dealt with over the years is because they've been, in my way of thinking, fixated about not breaking the tax cap, they have put off bonding for projects because the interest rate does increase the taxes. But at some point, we can't keep putting off doing these projects. And if we're talking about doing the Halleck's Mill pump station issue, and that's very interesting to learn about the EFC line of credit, which minimizes our exposure, that would help. But we have to be willing to do that. In terms of the solar law, as I said, the town board is working on the draft law. I would hope that we might be able to have this discussion next week at a work session, because what goes into legislation is an open session discussion. As I said last meeting, that's the making of the sausage, and we like it or not, we have to deal with that. But I have suggested raise the issue with the town board. Since the solar moratorium ended March 31st, I think we have to pass an extension to that moratorium and work fast, so it's not a 6 months, but maybe a 2 month. But just the time to agree on what goes into the law, refer it out, schedule public hearings, takes time. So I hope that the board can consider next week having just an extension on the moratorium while we're working on that draft. I think Ed explained the difference between the ADU and addition. The ADU is a separate rental unit, basically. Whether it's for your family or not, and you don't charge them rent, that's a separate point. But it is a unit that can be rented out. And I think you've talked about the parking in the fire zone, which is really an issue of enforcement, and we have to ask, to the extent that the police department can, to 1 hour a day or whatever it is to enforce. And once people know that there's going to possibly be a fine, I think that they will stop that behavior. Randy, thank you for your comments. I just want to clarify one comment you made on the solar law, the current law. The priorities in the law, first of all, they really only go to residential properties, because the way the law is written now, you cannot have ground-mounted solar as the primary use in a commercial district. You can only have it in a residential district. And the priorities that are in the law, in the intent of the law, basically say use unused pasture land first. And the last priority is land that's in a natural state. But what has happened with the ones that we've had some unused pasture land, but unfortunately we also have had developments in natural states where we have cut down hundreds of trees like Foothill, and the law allows that. It doesn't say you have to exclude those first 4 items until you get to your 5th priority. You can't say that. If you don't like any of those other 4 priorities, you still end up with the 5th priority. So it's just a clarification, on what you said. And we'll deal with the grandfathering law issue as we work through the sausage making of the law. Thank you. Oh, one other thing, on the Downing and the streetscape, which has been talked about for a long time. I think this is also shows the need why the town really has to, the board has to sit down and talk about a capital plan, not the capital plan that's in the back of the budget book, which is a very nice wish list, and it's a guide for what we might like to do. But we have to look at, we're going to spend X dollars of our fund balance on capital projects, and we have to agree that these are the ones that are going to be in the next 1 to 3 years. And we're going to fund it with fund balance. We're going to do it with whatever available funds we have. But we haven't had a real plan, and we desperately need this. And the Downing Drive, it's not just a repaving, it's a total streetscape. And unfortunately, that was talked about with the ARPA money, but we used the ARPA money for something else. And somebody else asked about the ARPA money, and there's the report that was like 3.8 million or something like in that neighborhood. And I think the comptroller will have she has to report that to the Treasury on April 30th, and I hope we can make that report public, in May.
It is public. When she reports it, it's posted in public.
It becomes public, but I think we have to announce that it is available, because a lot of people have been asking me, how have we been using that money? So that should be available in May. Thank you. That's it.
Pat?
I think you covered everything. You know?
Lou?
I'm good.
Serge?
No, I have no further comments. I think we should move the meeting forward.
Great. All right. We will now move on to personnel. Accept the resignation received from Ryan Hurd from the Refuse and Recycling Department effective March 28th, 2025. Appoint Jason Vitetta to the position of Librarian 1 at the John C. Hart Memorial Library. Appoint Kevin Kessner to the position of Senior Automotive Mechanic in the Refuse and Recycling Department. And appoint we already appointed Kathleen Macy. I will say it again. Appoint Kathleen Macy to the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, since she sat through the whole meeting. Okay, can I have a motion on our personnel?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. For resolutions, from the Highway Department. Is this what you've been waiting here for, Dave?
I just so love spending time.
I know you do. Authorize the supervisor to enter an agreement with American Petroleum Equipment and Construction Company, Inc. for the soil removal and remedial services at the Yorktown Highway Department.
Can Dave explain what that's all about?
He did last
He did
week, but
over
we
10.
can talk about it.
I'm sorry.
That we had a leaky kerosene tank. How many gallons was that?
We were doing our addition.
That was the tank.
And there was a 1,200 gallon tank. We're not quite sure if we're believing it's heating oil, because it had a supply and a return line coming out of it, as rusted as they were. And as we were digging the foundation, of course, we found this 1,200 gallon fuel tank, and then it became the alphabet soup of experiences. But everyone was very nice, and this is just so that we can pump it out, remove it, test the soil, to the happiness of the DEP, DEC, and Department of Health.
Does it have sand in it?
No. You got to realize, Highway was built on a junkyard. Okay,
So who knows if it was even supposed to be there?
So I'm sure we're going to find like a Model A or something down there when we're digging. But I was hoping for a '67 Corvette, but probably
No,
not.
or a refrigerator?
Not going to happen,
No.
Dave. All right. So we will authorize the comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the Highway Department. General fund balance of 12 to traffic control street sign marking for $12,000 for additional purchases due to safety mandates. From the Parks and Recreation Department, authorize the comptroller to process payment through the Parkland Trust authorization, in Parkland Trust in the amount of $47,593.20 to Liberty Parks and Playgrounds. Authorize the comptroller to process the following budget transfers for the Parks and Recreation Department, and that's a general fund balance of $45,500 to park improvements for $45,500, and that is installation of sport lights at Tom Diana Park at Granite Knolls Sports Complex pickleball courts. From the PD, Police Department, authorize a member of the Police Department to attend a seminar involving 5 overnight stays June 8th through June 13th, 2025 in beautiful downtown Princeton, New Jersey. Are you sure that's not just a vacation? From the Mohegan Lake Improvement District. I'm surprised Ken isn't here today. Oh, okay. You're here for Ken? Thank you for being there. I was a little worried. Authorized members of the Mohegan Lake Improvement District to attend the New York State Federation of Lake Associations Conference in Lake George.
At least that sounds better.
Yes, that's a better location than Princeton, absolutely. And that will be, let's see. We will authorize the supervisor to send a letter of support to New York State Legislature and the governor to enact Bill S. 5936 and Bill A. 4514 regarding the use of nutrient inactivation until the and the prompt creation of reasonable regulations to govern its use. So this Ken asked us to do last year as well. It is a bill in the Assembly and the Senate, sponsored by all of our local legislators, and this is to
Maintain the, like, so they
well,
don't have
it's
rooms.
try to get New York to do what every other state in the country does by using these inactivation nutrients or nutrient inactivants to take care of blue algae blooms and give a much cleaner water quality. And hopefully they see the wisdom in the fact that this has been tested 9 ways till Sunday everywhere else. For the police department, authorize the below-listed equipment to be deemed obsolete and sold at auction by Absolute Auctions and Realty. And that is a Instalert Rapid Messenger, sign, and trailer. From the Office of the Receiver of Taxes, authorize Receiver of Taxes to attend the New York State Association of Tax Receivers and Collectors Training Seminar.
Sounds exciting.
Well, it's in Lake George there too, so I don't know. From the Supervisor's Office, authorize the supervisor to execute an extension to the employment agreement of the Chief of Police through December 31st, 2026. With that, our chief was going to retire at the end of 2025, and has asked if he could, if his services could be used for another year. And for the way our police department has been propping him up and making him look like a great chief, we will definitely love to do that. Let's see. From the town clerk's office, authorized bid to be advertised for the John C. Hart Memorial Library to install audiovisual equipment in the community room and the program room. Set a public hearing to consider amending Chapter 216 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown entitled Peace and Good Order regarding snow and ice removal, and that'll be on the 15th day of April. It's right here. Set a public hearing to consider amending Chapter 250 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown entitled Streets and Sidewalks regarding the deletion of Article 6, Snow and Ice Removal, in its entirety. And that again will be here on April 15th. Set a public hearing to consider amending Chapter 275 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown entitled Vehicles and Traffic by adding a 4-way full stop on Quinlan Road. Once again, to be held here on the 15th of April. If Jay doesn't come, we'll have a quick night. Set a public hearing to consider a stormwater management permit and a wetland permit application submitted by Hernan Ugana for the proposed expansion of residence and driveway for premises located at 354 Alden Road, Yorktown, New York. Once again to be held here the 15th of April, 2025. Set a public hearing to consider a stormwater management permit and a tree permit application submitted by Michael Panny, SMP Homes, Inc., for property located at Luella Road for the purpose of excavation of the site to accommodate a new house, septic, and driveway. And that will be right here on the 6th of May. Set a public hearing to consider amending Chapter 300 of the Code of Town of Yorktown entitled Zoning regarding accessory dwelling units. That will be held here the 6th day of May, 2025. set a public hearing to consider amending Chapter 300 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown entitled Zoning Battery Energy Storage Systems, to be held here the 6th day of May, 2025. From the Water Department, authorize the supervisor to sign an amendment number 7 with Weston and Sampson, PELSLA Architects, PC, for engineering services to provide design, permitting, and bidding services for the water line cleaning and relining. Okay, and can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And can we have a meeting a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Yorktown. Have
Good night,
a wonderful
Yorktown.
night.